Well, it's the second day of the week and the third day of the month. Welcome to Tuesday on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you for making the time to join us this morning. Coming up, we'll be serving you the news shortly. Yours truly, I'll be doing that. But right after that, we get into our news review. And we'll be joined by Volta Regional President of the Ghana Institution of Surveyors, Maxwell Lukuto. He'll be our guest for this morning. Look forward to some excitement. But then today we focus on education. We continue our conversation on what government should pay more attention to in 2023. Yesterday, we assembled experts from trade, commerce, and the finance sector. Today, we delve into issues in the educational sector. How do we get it right? Joining us for that conversation, Thomas Musa, he is General Secretary of NAT. We also have Dr. Peter Pate Anti, Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies. And from the Africa Education Watch, we're joined by their Programs Manager, Divine Pe. And we also have Larry Agbado, Editor, Colleges of Education Journal, together with Dennis Labi, President, National Union of Ghana Students. All of them will join us for breakfast this morning as we get into that big story about education in Ghana and the way forward. But also coming up, yesterday we took you to Parliament, specifically the Works and Housing Committee. Today, our parliamentary correspondent, Kweku Asante, will be interacting with the ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee in the person of Peter Nochu Koto. He'll join us for a conversation on where we've come as far as education is concerned. But later, we offer you that unique opportunity to join us with your thoughts on this show. The show is all about you. So how about you share your thoughts with us? The hashtag is AM Show in the course of our live stream. And at the tail end, when we activate the phone lines, just be sure to give us a call. Up next, stay with us for the news. Thank you for staying. Let's get into our first story now. And some Ghanaians are asking government to find ways of improving the economy this year and of also creating more job opportunities for the youth. Ghana's economy suffered some setbacks last year with galloping inflation and a fluctuating cedi. There's more in this report by Anna Nketia and Rosemary Ajewa.
The economic crisis last year was felt across board, with all sectors struggling. Importers, traders, transport operators, and some individuals were hit the hardest. Although the economy has witnessed a slight stability with the cedi appreciating against the dollar, inflation continues to rise. Some Ghanaians who spoke with JoyNews want government to find ways and means to improve the state of the economy this year and create more job opportunities for the young people.
I wish in the new year the government also find ways and means how we can, the economy can be improved, how the job opportunities can be also opened for the young generation, so that people will not have, when economic impact is like negative economic impact can also lead to negative thinking and negative behavior. So if we found training and also job opportunity for the young generation, and then they can also be busy and active in those opportunities that is open for them, so they cannot involve themselves into negative action in the activities.
Some also want the government to be truthful and transparent to the public.
They must be truthful and transparent to the populace. When you are truthful and you come to say something, the people know that it is true, so they'll take it in good faith. Example is what is going on with our monetary issues. We can't see you people driving in V8, and then you tell us we should cut the cost of things. The cutting and the adjustments must come from them, and it must be evident. People should see it. Then the trust in them will be. When they tell us to hold on bring in money, people will know that when their money goes, at the end of the tenure, they will get their monies back. But if there's no truth, I don't see any truthfulness in the governance.
Meanwhile, others have encouraged all citizens to work harder to make the country a better place and not to rely just on the government to act. since everyone carries a responsibility in building the country.
Well, basically, I want to say that this is our nation. It's ours, none other. We have no other nation, so we have to work towards making it the best nation on earth. So all of us have to pitch in. It's not left to anybody else. All of us have to do the best we can so that the nation can go forward. Yes, the politicians have their responsibility, but the citizens also have their responsibility. I think that all of us need to do everything that we can to make Ghana the best nation that it can be for all of us, so that we can enjoy living in Ghana. I actually prefer living in Ghana to being outside. So I think we should do the best we can to make Ghana the best it should be.
Anna Nketia and Rosemary Ejewe's report read to you.
Now, the Bantamahene Bafo Owusu Amankwetia VI has vowed to lead the mobilization of chiefs for the development of the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, if the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly fails to do so. Nana Amankwetia is blaming the KMA for the rampant mounting of kiosks and containers and allowing congestion at the city center, which he says is turning the once flourishing Garden City into a village. He's been interacting with Love FM's Erastus Asaridonko.
Kumasi Metro houses a population of 3.63 million as at the end of 2022. The city is the largest in Ghana after the capital city Accra. The Kumasi city was referred to as the Garden City due to its green area cover and brilliant settlement layout, and the development emanating from issues of decongestion, open space fill, street markets, and uncompleted government projects are eroding the said legacy of the city. According to the Bantamahene Bafo Owusu Amankwetia VI, people with political authority have ignored calls for development of the city.
I had the opportunity to put this issue before the regional minister when he addressed the regional house. In fact, I told him that everywhere you go, you see these container structures. People are working on the streets, people are selling on the streets, cars are loading on the streets. Meanwhile, you go to some markets, these markets are empty. The pavements, are taken over by kiosks, these containers. And it's made Kumasi look like a village. What is happening at the moment is seriously an eyesore, to the extent that you see people selling tomatoes in front of Kompanoche Hospital. We have nobody to blame other than the KMA and then its assembly members. We know that the assembly members, they take money from people to put up these structures. This is a fact. They can deny it, but it's a fact. It's not anywhere that you can have these structures and do what you want. There are laws, there are regulations governing this city that must be adhered to in a strict sense. That is, you can't put up, these structures at unauthorized places. And this is what I believe the KMA should set itself up to do. We really want, a KMA that would be able to decongest the city of all these unauthorized dealings that are going on. That is the KMA that we want. We in Anano, we don't have the political, power. In spite of the fact that the city belongs to us, the land belongs to us, but the political power is with the KMA. Come 2023, if they fail to do it, Nanano, we are going to take it upon ourselves to make sure Kumasi is clean. That one we have told them, and we are going to do it.
Well, moving from there to Obuasi, its Municipal Health Directorate, which is retooling its facilities for improved access to healthcare delivery this year. Director Dr. Ya Menu says a comprehensive plan is being implemented to ensure the effective participation of the private sector in achieving the target. Nana Yaujima has more in this report.
According to the Directorate, efforts are being made through the local assembly to expand healthcare by building new facilities in smaller communities. Though these facilities are tooled, there are deficits. Health Director Ya Menu says equipping the facilities will be part of the Directorate's focus this year.
We know that there is no facility that ever had enough of logistics, because just as it comes, it also gets false, and so that always you need something.
The Directorate is appealing to non-governmental organizations and other institutions for support. A local NGO, 50/50 Club, has already responded to the appeal for beds and other medical equipment by donating equipment worth over 34,000 cedis. In Tonsua and in Sokote Anumabo Chips compounds are among beneficiaries.
But let's look at where in Tonsua is. Let's look at where in Sokote is. And the other time, the facilities that were recipients, it will go a very long way for them to stabilize patients, for them to do what hitherto they couldn't have done before they do even referrals. So it's going to go a long way to ease the struggles of the health workers in these facilities, and to also help promote the health of the indigents in those catchment areas and communities.
Jacob Edmond Akwa is founder of the NGO.
And anytime we talk about the club, I say, please say thank you to our members, because they contribute money every month. They set aside money every month. One of the things that we started doing, and it's been quite successful, even though we just have one sponsor coming in, is to concentrate on getting more corporate sponsors to help us.
2 individuals in need of financial support for surgeries also received cash support from the NGO, while assorted food items worth about 7,000 cedis were donated to Patmos Children's Home in the Adanse Asokwa district.
Now, Bono East Regional Director of Health, Dr. Fred Akpo, has called for concerted efforts to be brought to bear to ensure that the people in the region accept the COVID-19 vaccines. With the region having a case fatality much higher than the national average, and with the recent spikes in the number of new cases across the globe, Dr. Fred Akpo said the regional directorate's focus was to vaccinate at least 75% of the population. Anas Sabit now reports.
Of COVID-19 in hospitals, both in patients admitted because of the disease and those who tested positive after being admitted, indicate the severity of a COVID wave in major countries across the world. And as health authorities are working towards managing the surge capacity, authorities here in the Bono East region are concerned about the number of persons across the region who are yet to receive the COVID-19 vaccines. Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Fred Akpo, disclosed that the region's case fatality, which is higher than the national average, is enough for health authorities to be worried about, with a new trend across the globe.
If you look at the figures for Bono East, cumulatively, we recorded total of 3,145, and out of this, 76 of them died, giving us a case fatality of 2.3. If you look at the case fatality rate for Bono East, it's higher than that of the national figure. In fact, if you compare the case fatality rate for Bono East to that of Ashanti region and Greater Accra, it's about 6 times. So though you see a lot of cases in Ashanti and Greater Accra, the effect is much seen in terms of the percentage of those who are dying in Bono East. That is the picture that we are having in Bono East.
A breakdown in the number of cases recorded in terms of age group also revealed that those above the ages of 50 are more at risk in terms of the region's case fatality.
The worrying aspect of this is if you break down the cases in terms of who is suffering more. If you look at the age group for 20, 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, they are making up to about 90% of the cases of people who are being infected with COVID-19. But then if you look at the people who are really dying from COVID-19, you see that it's those who are 50 to 90 and 60 to 69. They don't even make up to 10% of the cases of COVID-19, but they are dying. Then it means that there is a way that, as a region, there is something that we should do to protect these elderly, these people with comorbid issues.
Dr. Fred Akpo further noted, as we start the year 2023, the region's focus is for it to work towards vaccinating a large percentage of its population.
if you look at the vaccine coverage for Bono East, so far, it's only about 55% of people who have gotten only one dose, and about 42% who have gotten 2 or fully vaccinated. It means that we are not protecting the vulnerable enough. So for Bono East, looking at our trajectory and where we are, it means that from 20 to 50, those of us who have not even gone for one, please kindly do that. And those of us who have gotten one and are yet to get our second and booster, we have to do. Because until we do that, then it means that we are putting the vulnerable population at risk of the disease. So if there is anything that Bono East should do for 2023, please get your COVID vaccines. Get your COVID vaccines.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Kintampo.
Let's go to Yendi now, where Member of Parliament for the area, Farouk Aliyu Mahama, says his Farouk Aliyu Mahama Educational Care Fund, that is the FAMEC Fund, will continue to support brilliant but needy students in the constituency. He has so far supported more than 150 students to gain access to education. Correspondent Martina Buguri reports.
The Member of Parliament for Yendi has a vision dubbed the New Yendi City. The vision is to transform Yendi to one of the developed areas in the country. It acknowledged the value of education to human development and the transformation agenda of the Yendi City. As part of the agenda, he has invested in infrastructure expansion and upgrading, logistical support, and human resource development, among others. It is in this same vein he's held an awards scheme to honor 20 teachers for their dedication to duty. Speaking at the maiden awards, the MP said the investment in the education sector, which is to transform the area, can only be achieved if the teachers come on board.
Show them a great gratitude of appreciation to the various roles they play in our lives. At this Teachers Award celebration, we honor our outstanding teachers for their exemplary performance, groundbreaking work that have affected and transformed the lives of the learners. We further aim to motivate teachers to go beyond ordinary lines of their work, to throw a spotlight on great teachers and share their remarkable stories, thereby inspiring and attracting many high-achieving candidates to join. This award scheme underscores the importance of teaching profession, symbolizes the fact that teachers, no matter where you teach or you're located, deserve to be recognized and celebrated.
The Municipal Director of Education, Sule Mohammed, commended the MP for his immense contribution towards education in the area.
Express my utmost sincere gratitude and appreciation to him for this kind gesture. He has done indeed very well. This is the hallmark of a very great leader. A great leader is one who is impacting on the life of everybody. And there's no true way that you can impact on the life of people other than education. Because education is an instrument of constructive change. That can, for example, even lift up an entire community from darkness to light. And so we will appreciate you. When I arrive here, there are hallmarks of your wonderful works across the municipality. Anywhere I go, I see your footsteps.
The Municipal Chief Executive of Yendi, Alhaji Yusuf Ahmed Abubakar, cautioned teachers against indiscipline and urged them to take up their responsibility seriously.
Some teachers have not been able to perform well because of self-discipline. Some are either lazy and do not prepare lesson notes, or are perpetual absentees. The Municipal Education Oversight Committee, which I chair, has decided to discipline any teacher for such unproductive acts.
The best teacher received a motorbike and cash prize, while the best teacher in underserved community also received a motorbike and cash prize. The rest received cash prizes and television sets and cash prizes and laptops. The MP also donated 20,000 to the Teachers Welfare Fund and fully funded scholarship for 5 head teachers to pursue their masters.
From Yendi, let's come down south to the Volta Regional Chapter of the Ghana National Canoe Fishermen's Council which is happy about gains experienced in the fisheries sector. The fisher folks say the reduction of illegal fishing and streamlining of distribution of premixed fuel have contributed to a revamping of the sector. Fred Kwame Asari reports.
Addressing the press in Adina, some of the fisher folks expressed their views on developments in the sector.
Concerning about the trawlers, we have 74, but as at now, those who are going to the rules and regulation of the government, the Fishing Act, is only 7. So they are doing what? Responsible fishing, and everything is going well, very well. Cycle is, those trawlers, if they've been to the sea, they catch what? The people's fish. The fish that's supposed to be caught by the artisanals, you see, and then they cut on it, and then come and sell to our wives. So she has put a stop to that. Now, no cycle.
The thing I know, I'm a net owner. So the time they put us in the Ministry of Fisheries, have done a lot for us, especially premise side. It have been stopped. Those Kalabule people coming to buy the premise and sell us to us again. So we have done a lot. They supply machine for us, the net owners individually. We collect and do our work. And second, he has supply a net for us. The price of the net come down a little bit. It's good for us. And close season is also good for us.
They have therefore appealed to President Akufo-Addo to allow Madam Kumsin to continue serving as she had so far delivered to their expectations.
We are all of a firm conviction that this current minister is tuning around the near collapsed fishery industry of Ghana for the better and must be allowed to complete the positive transformational agenda that she has started. Though there are challenges are many, she is tackling it head on, and we can all attest to the fact she is doing marvelously well.
Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Adina.
And on that fishing note, we wrap the news for this morning. But stay with us. We delve into the newspapers and more for the news review. Do stay. Well, here we are digging into not the newspapers, the online portals. The newspapers are still holidaying. Yes, they're still holidaying, but I guess befittingly so. It's been quite a year, hasn't it? So we'll focus on the news portals online and get some scoop from there. But we're joined by Volta Regional President, Ghana Institution of Surveyors, Maxwell Lukuto. Mr. Lukuto, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing? And good morning to your listeners and viewers.
I am doing well, and I hope you are too. Happy New Year.
Many happy returns.
Right.
2020 has not been too good to us, but we pray and hope, even though against all warnings from the IMF, that 2023 is going to be worse off. We just pray and hope that the God of Israel, the God of Ghana, would see us through this 2023, and we pray and hope that it will be better than we experienced in 2022.
Interesting angle you've started from, because I was about to go right down that alley. You are not a contractor, you're with the Institution of Surveyors, but at the tail end of the year, we heard of, if memory serves, some 800 or so million plus that had been doled out to contractors who were owed by the state. But when you look at the sector, the building sector in 2022 and the work that you do, why is it that you say it was not such a good year? Give us a breakdown.
On the contrary, I do construction as well, usually for the district assemblies.
Okay, I'm just saying that because usually surveyors are not necessarily contractors. So that was the angle I was coming from. So if you do it, that's okay. But give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, the building industry hasn't been too good because usually it's out of the bountifulness of whatever happens around you. You have to feed. You have to be able to pay your kids' school fees. You have to be able to put body and soul together before necessarily thinking of where to lay your head. Of course, those are the basic necessities of life. But food is always at the top. Clothing comes next before housing and other facilities are thought of. And so if you don't have food, if you don't have clothing, if you can't pay your children's school fees, if you can't run around, how do you think about building? And you see, before you build, of course, then the land issues come in. And so to buy land may be considered as a luxury at the point. You need to get to the basics of life before thinking about whether to buy land and whether to build or not. And so, like you are rightly aware, things haven't been too good. The sector or the whole economy was plagued with a lot of uncertainties, and most people couldn't find their feet so well with what they do as a typical Ghanaian. And so the industry wasn't too good the way we expected it to be. Like you said, contractors were promised they were going to be paid, but as usual, there was no show. Generally, we know there's no money in the country. The country is broke.
Hold for me, Mr. Lukuto. If you say contractors were going to be paid, as the state said, but were not paid, what do you mean? Because the 800 million plus, if memory serves, was disbursed, wasn't it?
It was disbursed, but the question is how much were they owed? From time immemorial, we've been hearing about contractors being owed so much money. And so if you are paying them the 800 and whatever million, is that able to sort them out completely? I'm sure no. So that's my point in saying that. You see, and usually what happens in these things is that people take loans from banks and take other facilities as well to be able to execute these jobs. And once the bank, you know what happens at the banking sector and the economy in general. So the inflation rate and all those things that plague us. Before you take the money, maybe you have gone to take a loan of 500 million or something, and then out of government owing you maybe some 300 or 600, they come to pay you some 100 million or something. What's the deficit that is there and the challenges that come on their own? You realize that you are still worse off. And usually at the end of the day, before you are paid, whatever you get, you still send it to the bank. And you hear a lot of people dying, a lot of people selling their property to be able to pay off this debt and these loans. And it's not good for us. Seriously, it's not been too good in the year 2022. And so I'm not sure you see any contractors smiling and clapping for government for whatever they might have done. It's not been too good for us, seriously.
Well, between yesterday and today, we've been focusing on different areas. Yesterday, we were focusing on the economy of the country and business and what we can do moving forward as we get into an IMF program, supposing we get it at full scale. Today, we're talking education, but I'd like to find out from you, from the angle of surveyors, construction, and all of that, if you could propose policy or any things to government, ideas, what would they be?
Seriously, like we saw yesterday, just for companies led by Sia Japan met the president with some Thai businessmen who are interested in growing our rice industry. The question is, have they gotten the land? I was trying to see where he's gotten the land, and I just heard that he has some pockets of land dotted all over the country. Of course, Gota region is the greatest grower of rice. Between, Sogakopa, the enclave, we have a lot of rice industry sited around here. They do the farming, they do the processing. And so the question is, has he secured the land, or he's now going to go through the hustle? Getting land in Ghana, it's a hell of time. You need to go through a lot of challenges to be able to get land. And so the question is, how is government helping people to secure their land? We have been fighting for some of these things to be done properly. Digitalization is one thing we have always been talking about. But the question is, has landowners been helped enough to be able to register and secure their land boundaries such that if an investor comes, it's a bingo. You just go in there and you have everything laid out. You know who to talk to, who to pay money to, so that before you pay the money or after you have paid, nobody, 2 or 3 more people wouldn't come saying that that particular land belongs to them, and the investors that would have come with their equipment with so much money in hand to farm, and there will be a lot of litigation over the land, and the people cannot farm and all those other things. For me, those are challenges that need to be seriously looked at. And once we are able to secure our land tenant system very, very well, and everything is just there for people to come, they come and they don't have a problem. A lot of the people come with money at hand, but they spend all this money on unnecessary litigation and fighting over the piece of land upon which the thing has to be built, or where the land, the farm has to be cultivated. And at the end of the day, every investment that should have gone into equipment and other things, and getting the land tilled and seed to plant, goes into fighting litigation in the court, or if with the people at home and all those things. And at the end of the day, they take their expense and go back. So for me, I think that if government can look at this sector of the economy, that is the land management and tenure system, where we can be sure that land is secured for investors to just go in there and get and do their farming. It helps. So as a surveyor, I would employ government to take this digitalization process very seriously, where they can ensure that these things are done properly for people to come and just step on and do it. There have been a lot of land administration projects, but at the end of the day, we've not gotten the results that we are expecting from it. So much has been invested. Let us be very critical with some of these things and make sure that we get the best output we desire from these aspects of our life. Everything has to be done on the land. If it's going to be building, it has to be built on land. If it's going to be road, it has to be built on land. If it's going to be farming, it has to be done on the land. If it's going to be siting of industry, it has to be done on the land. So, like, the basis of everything is land. So if we get our land tenure system very right, we are sure that we are good to go.
Well, let's get to the online portals now and check out some stories making the news there. And in the first one I'd like us to look at, President Akufo-Addo has donated 100,000 Ghana cedis to what? The National Cathedral Secretariat for the continuation of the project. Now, speaking at the Bible reading marathon ongoing at the project site, the president, the president reiterated his conviction to build the cathedral, noting that it was not only his pledge, but an act of thanksgiving for God's mercies and grace on the country. First of all, what do you make of this National Cathedral project? And secondly, I'm sure you've heard that the allocation of 80 million Ghana cedis for the building or the continuation of the project was disallowed this year by members of parliament of that select committee. Reverend Dr. Joyce Ayi, in an interaction, said it wasn't the entire sum, just the seed money end of it. But what do you make of the project and the push to continue with it?
I am a Christian, a member of the Global Evangelical Church, and we believe in building a house of God. But usually you build a house of God when you have the ability to. In the Bible, you realize that David, Solomon, and all the rest promised to build God something, and they did. I am not sure they had to squeeze their people to be able to build the house of the Lord, because God himself says he detests a house that is full of lies. And so for me, yes, it's a good thing our president has promised a personal pledge to God to build him a cathedral. Of course, coming to realize the enormity and the extent to which capital has to be invested in to be able to get this house of God out, he has decided to get all of us Ghanaians, because even the Muslims donated, all Christians are supposed to donate a cedi or so each a month. And so we believe that out of the bountifulness of God's grace to us, we should be able to donate these things to build the house of God. But seriously, if you look at the situations in which we are in, I don't think this is the right time for us to be thinking of building that house. The history we have heard about the basilicas and all other ones, they are built over a long period of time. I don't know why our president thinks that his cathedral should be built within 4 years or within 8 years.
In fact, if you look at, sorry for the interruption, but if you look at the Cathedral of Notre Dame in France, which caught fire some years back, with the likes of Bernard Arnault and others contributing to refurbish it, you would notice that in some cases it took centuries to put up these edifices. Centuries.
Yes. So I don't know why we as Ghanaians are pushing so hard to be able to build ours within 4 years. Of course, the space has been cleared. A lot of new built houses have been bulldozed down to make way for this to be done. People criticize that, but it's been done. The harm has already been caused. And so let's take our time and build this. We are always saying, some Ghanaians are always saying that the time is not right for us to commit more money into trying to build this house. Parliament has spoken, I'm sure. That's the voice of the generality of Ghanaians saying that we don't think that much money should be committed from the state coffers now towards the building of the cathedral. Of course, Nana Addo promised or made a personal pledge to build this house. So if he's contributing 100 million of his personal money...
So 100,000 Ghana cedis. 100,000 Ghana
cedis out of his own money. So it's his salary or whatever it is. I think it's good if that's his personal pledge, and we should just encourage him to go along that time yet. But I think that state money should not continually be committed to that now, and that we should sit down properly and plan how this is going to be done. Like the Bible said, who is this man who would want to build, will start and cannot end, and people will mock at him?
Right.
So let's plan. We want to agree that it should take us 10 years, 20 years. Let's plan it properly, and whatever we want to commit to it at the end of every year, at the beginning of every year, we agree on it and do it. It shouldn't be done in a rush. And if you look at the edifice, if you look at the design, it's not something we can rush and finish up with. And as we speak, with all that money, $339 or $340 million going into that, what have we seen? We can't see much. And so for me, let us take our time and make sure that we do this thing to glorify God. It's a good thing, but not at the crucial time of our economic meltdown, where the IMF has been proposed worse and high situation for all countries, including Ghana, in 2023. Let's be measured cautiously. We are not against the building of the cathedral. We are not anti-Christ, we are not anti-God, but we are only looking at our reality and the situation in which we are in. And the times that surround us now, and we are saying that we don't think this is the right time to do it. We are just being fair in our assessment. We are not against the president to build a befitting house of the Lord where all of us will go and worship. And if it's going to be a historic center, it's going to be a tourist center for Ghana to make money out of. But you don't invest if you can't feed yourself. And so for some of us, that is what we think it should be.
Interestingly, there's an outfit, I've just been looking for the name, which was putting up an edifice in that area, Waterstone Realty Luxury Apartments Complex. That was demolished, and they are also, there has been a legal twist to the matter because they are also seeking retribution in court. They are seeking a 120 million Ghana cedi judgment debt. So that is also in there, apart from other entities that had to be moved on the back of that. But anyway, let's get into this other story. At least some positives to look at. And we have fuel prices dropping by 8%, and some leading oil marketing companies have begun reducing prices of some petroleum products at the pumps. Market leader Goil has announced more than 8% in reduction in fuel prices. So I was at the pump yesterday, and about 1 cedi had been taken off per litre, which is great, because when you're purchasing about 47 litres, then you know what that means in terms of the per litre charge. But the market leader had announced that it has slashed the price of diesel by 1 cedi 50 pesos to now sell at 14 cedis 60 per litre. On the other hand, petrol was now going for 12 cedis 40 pesos per litre. You look at other OMCs, Total Energies announcing a price reduction of its products, and other OMCs are also expected to follow suit on the back of competition. So looking at that, for you, a positive, right? Because fuel prices hit what? 15 cedis plus, 16 cedis plus, and diesel went as high as 24 cedis at a point. Yeah. At a point, some were even selling petrol for around 17 cedis and 18 cedis thereabouts. We've made quite some gains. Something to be celebrated, right?
Real one. I was also at the pump yesterday, and I even got some OMC to sell at, I think, 11 cedis 34 pesos. Some were selling at 11 cedis 99. Yes, of course, I saw Goil 13 cedis and 15 cedis respectively for petrol and diesel.
So Goyle is now around 12 cedis, 40 pesos, if memory serves.
Yeah.
Yes, 12 cedis, 40 pesos. That's what I got it for yesterday.
Yeah, a lot of gain, basically because the rate in the dollar has dropped significantly and the world market of crude has also dropped. And so, of course, those are the major determinants of the petroleum products. And so if the world market, the cost has dropped and then the dollar rate has also gone down, I'm sure those are the reasons why we are getting gains at the pumps. But we only hope and pray that situations don't change drastically like we experienced at the latter part of last year, where we couldn't even buy fuel for our cars and moved. And seriously, prior to the Christmas celebration, you move through Accra, and the normal Accra traffic you expect to see, you don't see it.
Right.
I guess all because people are not able to buy fuel to move their vehicles around, and people have to devise more clever ways of moving in town and doing business.
Right.
Most people resorted to online transactions and all that, and so we're not moving away much. And so once they drop, it's a good omen for us. It will impact largely on business and the transport fares. We only pray and hope that our transport unions will also respond positively. Usually what we see is that as soon as there's an increase, they increase immediately. But once there's a drop, they take their time to be able to reduce. And usually it is those of us who buy directly from the pump who get the benefits as soon as it is reduced. But the ordinary masses who bear much of the brunt don't get the full, the transportation fares reduced, and so still legal in the pain that they find themselves. And so it's my prayer that the transport unions will still keep up their drivers to make sure that there's a significant drop in the fares. If not, then nothing at the end of the day. And so that's my hope and prayer, that like they've been responding positively and quickly to the increase, they should also try to respond to the downward trend that we are experiencing now.
Right. Let's now talk about Saglemi, that project. And in recent times, we've been told that by the sector minister, Francis Asenso-Boakye, I think, that they are going to let go of that project, give it to private investors, that basically it's become something that is, maybe it's a Pyrrhic victory that has been won because it is costing us more. It will cost us more as a state to refurbish the facility and make the most of it rather than give it to private investors. Well, the latest story, government masterminded looting of Saglemi, Saula Tuna Kalba MP. Let's get some details from that story. It's on myjoyonline.com. Now, the deputy ranking member on Parliament's Works and Housing Committee, Andrew Dari Chiwite, is alleging that the government masterminded the looting at the Saglemi housing project. According to him, the extent of looting witnessed at the housing project could not have been done by individuals from neighboring communities, but rather the work of an organized unit. Quoting him, he says, "You went to the site with us and you saw what happened. That was why that day at the project site, I was asking questions. I was asking those who happened to visit the project with us in 2017 and 2018. We saw the level of work there. We saw the quality of work that was done. But 2 weeks ago, when we went there, you saw what happened. As if the government planned, went to the project site with trucks, with boys for them to pick out the doors, louver blades, glass fittings. You were there with us. Look, 1,506 housing units. You saw it." It goes on and on. But I have a question. What do you make of the project? Each time I pass there, it's like a blot on our national conscience, a scar. The last time I went down that route was sometime in, I suppose, October or November, actually. I was going to some part of outside Ghana, actually, and I had to use that route. Each time I see it, it pains my heart. Not just that project, but other projects, even ones by Kufuor, former President Kufuor, which have not been... I just ask myself, how do we think as a country? First of all, they say affordable housing, which is not affordable for the layman, for the technocrat, for the person who is fresh out of school doing some work. That's what other systems in France and the others, they have. That's why people can build wealth. And then secondly, this bit about all these fittings were there. and now they've been removed. I mean, these are state assets. How is that even possible? What's your reflection on that?
Ben, I'm right.
Yes, Benjamin.
Ben, I drove past the place just yesterday around 5 o'clock, and I felt like weeping. You are being charitable with the adjectives you are using to describe us as a nation. It's worse than you are using. We are just not a people of conscience. We are a people who don't think about what Ghana really is. I am finding it difficult to choose words to describe us as a people. About a year and a half or a year ago, Hassan Yarga mounted a spirited challenge to all of us as Ghanaians and was going to mobilize people to go and occupy the place by force. You quickly saw government machinery rose and threw a challenge back. I thought that was going to push us to do something for once in our lifetime, but it never happened. I drove past there just yesterday, and my heart bled. I stopped for about some 2 minutes and drove away. I said, what? Is this what we can use our national resource to do?
Right.
And they will tell you they are doing audit, which they will never complete up to now. When that project was going on, workers from all over my constituency, Safton, Sugakope, Tefle, and all the environment, Putame, they would be buzzed early morning to the project site, and when they finish in the evening, they would be buzzed back. And at the end of the day, they were taking salary, and their pocket was booming. Their economy was good. Their families were being taken care of. They were able to pay school fees. When the construction was going on, when you passed there, the number of people who work at the site, if for nothing at all, it's a good omen for the country. And if a president would think about this, and somebody will come and just run this project down the way it's been done, and now they are looking at selling it out to somebody, a private person, whoever that person is, nobody knows. But of course, with the kind of things we experience, this Muchendi government, you can expect nothing more than they wanted to give to their cronies. And for me, it's crazy. It's nauseating. It's so bad. And you can't imagine that we have a president, a minister of state, or a minister responsible for works and housing, and every day they are paying just lip service to this. They wouldn't come out with any concrete ideas to make sure that this thing, I don't want to use some words.
Season your words.
I am careful to choose my words because it's just so bad, my brother. It's just so bad. Look at the structure integrity of this building. Look at what is and the number, the sheer number. It's about 1,600 housing units.
Right.
And we have people looking for housing to buy.
Exactly. Looking at our housing deficit in the country. I mean, I'm not sitting here, I'm not asking anyone to give me one of them. No, I'm not, I don't have personal interest. But there are people who may need those. It's not to say that I don't have any need, but there are people who may need those more than I do. People who may be commuting from very far places. I've worked in the Pram area before, so I know what it means to commute from very far into some enclaves of the country. Yet, these are there, and we sometimes it just beats my imagination. Yesterday, when we hosted Stella Jima Labi, who was the 2022 National Best Teacher, she made mention of going to Dubai in the United Arab Emirates and how it really got her thinking about how desert land could be reclaimed and all of that. We know the story, Sheikh Maktoum and the rest. And you ask yourself, even the basics, the very basics, we can't get right. At what point will we get to the likes of Dubai and other places, Doha? When?
My brother, just like you are saying, like I started saying, getting land in Ghana, and especially with that enclave, it's hot. It's hot. I am a surveyor. I know what I'm talking about. You go buy the land, and the challenges you go through alone is hell. That is drawing a lot of people away from thinking about building. And now government has been able to secure this land. I'm not sure there's any litigation over the piece of land. And built all this thing with hard-earned currency of ourselves. If we don't have people to even buy, let's give a lot of people to go and occupy for free. At least these people are Ghanaians. Have we not seen free housing policies in other countries? So what are we doing to ourselves? And we are leaving this thing to rot. Might are just destroying this thing. What are we doing to ourselves? Yesterday we passed and realized that some of the roof members are even getting rotten away. Yes, of course, once you build and you don't occupy, a lot of the building structures fall apart. So whether these things fell apart or people intentionally went in and read them, or whether they were led by government or by some hooligans or whatever it is, nobody knows. But it is just because people are not occupying the space.
It also means it also means it also means, as we wrap the conversation on this, that even if the assertions are untrue, it means that we've been lax in our security to the point where some nefarious characters have been emboldened and felt, oh, we can go in there and steal these, fittings and others, and there'll be nothing, no one to check us. And there's also this mentality, oh, the MPP did it. So when we come, maybe we are the NDC, we'll be very lax towards this project. Or the NDC did it. So when we come and we are the MPP, we'll be very lax to it. I want to speak to our leaders this morning. It is taxpayers' money, not your money. So at least protect it.
My point is that what is only left for us to be done there is to access the place with road network and water. Those are the only two things we have to send there. Can we think that ECG cannot? And there's already a transformer. There's a substation being sited just right in front of the project.
Indeed.
And how far is the project from the main road that we can't just join it up? Can't we extend water from that main road to the place and allow people to occupy these places and use them? The nurses are crying for houses. The soldiers are crying for houses. All the security services are crying for houses. And are we saying that we can't get these people to do these things right? Is it rocket science? What is it? And we are leaving these things to rot. And this is our hard-earned currency money. And now we are spending so much money to build a cathedral. Are we right up there? My brother, what are we doing to ourselves?
I sense your disgust and your pain. You're sounding almost as though...
Because I am within the built industry, and I know how much it costs to put up a single room. And if we have all these things rotting away, it is so much pain to my heart. What are we doing to ourselves as a nation?
I feel your pain. And guess what? Because we were talking about the National Cathedral project earlier, how much have we pumped into that project as a state? 339 million Ghana cedis. 339 million Ghana cedis. Out of that, the amount paid directly to the Secretariat, the National Cathedral Secretariat, is 225 million Ghana cedis. And that paid to the consultant, Ajay and Associates, is 113 million Ghana cedis. Put that together, you get 339 million Ghana cedis. But here's the interesting part. As you spoke, it got me interested in this comment by Voodoo, who comments on that post on My Joy Online. He says, 339 million. This could have built at least something when it comes to affordable housing. It could have set up a few large-scale rice farms so that we reduce rice imports. It could have helped to stabilize the cedi. But look at what our leaders are doing with the money. So I guess, again, priorities. He mistakenly puts there dollars, but it's actually cedis. And but there's a whole lot we could do with some of these. But I guess the thinking is different. Let's wrap the conversation by going to bbc.com. I want to focus on this story because it's of interest to our political infrastructure, Ghana, Nigeria. It focuses on Nigeria. Obasanjo draws ire for presidential polls endorsement. So Nigeria's former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, is at the center of a political storm after endorsing opposition presidential hopeful Peter Obi, or Peter Obi, like they would say, ahead of the general election due next month. In his endorsement, Mr. Obasanjo described Mr. Obi of the Labour Party as a mentee who had an edge over other candidates. We do recall that Obasanjo governed Nigeria between 1999 and 2007 as the flag bearer of the now main opposition PDP party. People have gone after him, especially as there are other contenders, Bola Ahmed Tinubu who is seen to be the front runner. He is with the governing APC, and Abubakar Atiku of the opposition that's the PDP. But here's why I find it interesting. This Peter Obi, at a point, was a governor in Nigeria, and he is known for a tough stance against anti-corruption. And he has a lot of money too. I mean, he's wealthy. At a point, there was a project within his state, and he realized that there was something fictitious going on, the sums that were being quoted to him. He goes on to purchase with his own money and donates it to his state. People didn't like that. He's come in there because he's somewhat young compared to the others, and he has that tough stance against corruption. When you look at our leadership in Ghana, how can we emulate this, especially in terms of young blood and in terms of those people with integrity? Because we've been told time and again, we'll fight corruption. Our president told us, the Anas principle. Now the Anas principle, I don't know whether it can even be found. Your take as we wrap the conversation.
Yeah, of course. So, like we have always, not all of us do, because if you look at the attitude of most Ghanaians towards corruption and politicians, you would want to think that some, I can't put a percentage to it though, but some are still in love with corruption. Some are in love with corrupt politicians, because the youth especially, once you talk about corruption, somebody will jump in and compare to 2 years ago or 5 years ago or 6 years ago. I think that corruption 6 years ago was bad, and corruption a year ago or now should also be bad. And so these are the kind of people we should be directing to the leadership of the country, those that take a strong stand against corruption. And so for me, it's for somebody who is a mentee to Obasanjo, and he's been the one who is pushing hard for him to come in, should tickle people's mind. And so for me, Peter, yes, I was in Nigeria, and I went to his state, and the kind of things I heard he did, it's so marvelous.
Right.
He's the guy who is so tough, and the one who will make sure things are done the way they should be done. And once he has his own money, he makes sure that he uses his own money to do a lot of the roads in Nigeria, in his state.
Right.
And it's so pleasing. These are the kind of people we should be expecting to go to the highest level of our leadership to make sure that things are done properly. Unlike what we see in Ghana today, we only pay lip service to corruption. We will eliminate it, we will eliminate this, and we go there, and we even embolden the people the more. Look at Kisi Ajabe talking about we not being ready to fight corruption in Ghana.
Right.
The whole special prosecutor.
Right.
If you could speak like that, it means that something is happening at the top. Because he's supposed to be supported, he's supposed to be given budgetary allocation. And once he doesn't get it, how does he do his investigation? He says there's so much up his sleeve for him to do, but because he's not been given the budgetary allocation, he cannot go ahead and do it.
Right.
So he says that we're just paying lip service to corruption. We are not ready to fight it. Like you bring it out, and there are people who are ready to fight you tooth and nail. That's the kind of leadership we are experiencing in Ghana. So for us, we should also push for the Peter Obis of Nigeria and make sure that we get them to leadership position. Take a hard stance against corruption. Punish people who get themselves involved in this, and make sure that we rid our country of it. When people don't get punished, others are emboldened to do worse than they have done. And so let's take a hard stand and make sure we do the right things.
In the meantime, since you mentioned the special prosecutor for about 17 months, he, together with some of his assistants at the office, have not been paid still, at least per
you see, that's what I'm talking about. People are not being paid. So if somebody comes to offer them something, will drop my case. When they drop, they are human. They need to put body and soul together. I am not saying that they are also corrupt, but they are human.
Right.
And they are liable to temptation and to corruption. You see, so once people are being paid their salary over 17 months, what do you expect them to do? How do they do it?
Interesting questions. We'll leave the thought of that for another day, but this is where we'll have to draw the curtains on the conversation. It's been really good having you, Maxwell. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you, Ben, for having me, and greetings to everybody, especially people of Southtown. Good morning.
Right. And that is the Volta Regional President, Ghana Institution of Surveyors, Maxwell Lukuto, who joined me there for that conversation. Just to wrap with some stories on the BBC right there. The U.S. has returned looted ancient green coffin to Egypt, jail for Senegal members of parliament who kicked pregnant colleague, and arrest over deadly Uganda New Year fireworks crush. All of those stories on BBC as far as Africa is concerned. On that note, we have to wrap here and settle for sports up next after the break. Do stay.
But already punching her way out of every tag or glass ceilings about what girls can do with a rare skill, poise, and dexterity.
Don't have to be a bugans. Don't want to training, so it's a machine with a shaduka.
Lucky for her, the age that she has started and the time she will get to the higher level, she will understand it more and she will make a lot of name to herself, to the family, and to Ghana.
Somebody like Najat, give Najat 2 years. I'm telling you the fact is she's going to take medal for Ghana in 2023, all African Games in Ghana.
I want to see myself in future as the first female boxer in Ghana who won the world title.
This is Najat Logo, the budding female boxer from Jamestown. History has favored men as the stars of the boxing world. In Ghana, Azuma Nelson, Ike Bazooka Korte, DK Poison, Isaac Dogbe, and Richard Cumming readily come to mind. Najat has a dream bigger than herself, to etch her name on the list of great boxing legends in the country, a feat only now Amelie Texan strived to attain even at the prime of her career.
A lot of people see females as we don't have strength, we can't do all the things that men do. So I chose box. I want to see myself in future as the first female boxer in Ghana who won the world title.
Why we the female boxers in Ghana, we are not much than the footballers. We don't get the support. And they thought boxing is an individual sport. The boxing is an individual sport. That when it took the medal, when one person took a medal, it's a one. But as a football team, they take a medal, the whole team take a medal, we count it one. What we need is we need support. Somebody like Najat, give Najat 2 years. I'm telling you the fact is she's going to take medal for Ghana in 2023, all African Games in Ghana. Let's bet. I know what I'm saying.
Trained by her father, Kaloko.
Again.
She's filled with arrogance of talent. Najat is as fast as a fly in the ring with a powerful striking left punch. In this family, boxing is second nature.
I chose boxing because I always see my family, almost all of them, into boxing. So I chose boxing to be part of them.
She took a knife fish kankani. I come on about 4 years. Kakan she na the gallon akanga. She sa it better abani janush in a buga gallon. It's a she two kankanish. Yado ki game. It's a chicken zuchinch. Kuma sama da baban suna. She sa su tun kankanin su. Me she na son game. Sa su na abinda nche na face the shine.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, when we're talking about boxing, boxing has been in my vein, has been in my blood, and I'm so happy to see my children trying to follow my footsteps by them being boxers, as I'm a trainer. Every coach will be happy to see his words, to see his kids, his children, trying to do what he does. And when I see them most of the times, I become more proud. I become more serious, because you have been training with other boxers and other people, which some of them, sorry to say, don't appreciate what you are doing for them. So when your own children are doing it, how happy you will be. I'm so happy to see them doing it. Even if they are not going to take it to whatever level, anytime I see them, they are my inspiration now. Because even if I want to stop doing boxing, if I think of my children, there is no way I'm going to stop doing it.
Najat wants to do more than just knocking down her opponents in the ring. She goes to school. Her teachers say she commits herself to schoolwork as much as her training and moments of fierce fighting in the boxing rings.
I was very excited when I got a female boxer in the school. Actually, we don't have we have boxers, we have athletics and footballers in this school. And when the father told me that this is what the girl wants to take part in it, I said, oh, fine, it's a good idea. So you should allow her. Maybe you will be one of the best female boxers in the country. So I encouraged the father, and in fact, I was very excited when she got this cap, which he presented it to the school.
Seated in her class, flanked by her mates, she wears an innocent face. But in her face, there exists a violent power of destruction. Yet in her thoughts, a deep-seated sense of passion for saving lives as a doctor.
That was an advice of my father. He told me in life, you don't have to aim on only one thing. Always you have to think twice. So I decided in future to become a doctor. But because I added boxing, I took the advice of my father. So always after school, I go to training, and sometimes if I can't make it to training, I tell my father that, Dad, today I can't make it to training. So after he goes to training, come back to train me at home.
Though young and amateur, everyone appreciates her skills, but above all, her intellect.
Academic-wise, she's brilliant. Sports-wise, she's very good. Combining both of them, in the near future, we would think Najat to go many heights. From here, we think if she would go the way she's going, she will attain more glory for herself and for the family and the school as well. So it's our fervent prayer that the way she is going, she keeps going like that, and the sky is going to be her limit.
Boxing is hard work and painstaking. She's doing well in combining the rigorous training regime associated with boxing and schoolwork.
Every midnight, my mother wakes me up, bath, get to school early, come back, and get back to training. So always I try to come to training, but sometimes if I can't come to training, I just tell my dad, today I will not make it to training, and say, okay.
Your homeworks, how often do you do your homework? How does training affect you and your homework?
Training never affects me on doing my homework, because if you are a student, we who attend Apedex Academy, you must not miss doing your homework. You always have to be punctual. Always do your homework. So if you don't do your homework, there will be some punishment for you. So I always do my best to do my homework.
Najat today, good girl ni. Motana so koyan abu. Mota san abu. Tuntana kankani. Chicho chinke complain. Kama Najat, good girl ni. It's a Najat today. Ita bata ka homework inta gida. The thing I come to look at school. Now what I'm at to understand, but then I come to teach at the sport knows what I'm at. Answers is okay. It's an interzo, then at the free. Shit a gym.
I have to be always be connected to the school. I have to be connected to the teachers so that they will help me. Then I'll also see what is going on. So she is very serious when it comes to school. She is one of the best 5 at the class all the time since she started going to school. The best 5 all the time. So I always make sure that when she's back from school, the homework aspect is very important to me.
Najat is a very disciplined student and a very brilliant one as that. She does everything we ask her to do at the appropriate time without making mistakes.
For a young, promising boxer with the devotion and conduct of a professional, her mates, teachers, and many others see greatness in her.
Oh, you see, as I know, the father is a boxing coach. And through the father, we know she will go far. When the father was able to handle her very well, or handle her well, she will be one of the best boxer, female boxer in the country. Apart from Yako Chavez and others, I think we have a good boxer, a female good boxer in this community.
She can become a good boxer in future, so I'm telling him to help herself to take her higher than how she is now.
Do you see a potential in her becoming one of the biggest boxers in the country?
Yes, to be honest, yes, because she's a female, as you are asking me. And to make a good name for yourself, luckily for her, we don't have a lot of female boxers in the system. We have some, but we don't have that much. Lucky for her, the age that she has started and the time she will get to the higher level, she will understand it more and she will make a lot of name to herself, to the family, and to Ghana. So, yes, I believe she will.
Najat's journey of rewriting boxing history started about 5 years ago.
For Happy Days Academy, we always nurture children sports-wise and academic-wise. As you can see, we have a Mino Kids Olympic Games. That Joy FM organized. We took part about 3-4 years ago. We won about 30 gold medals. So for the school, we make sure Najat is being brought up very well. And adding academics to it, we make sure she's also well trained in the academic aspect as well, so that she'll be able to attain better or good heights in the future.
If winning those medals were just the beginning of a career nurtured from birth, as her mother put it, then she capped it off becoming the overall best boxer in the Basiseka Boxing Championship, a community organization that is determined to awaken the fighting spirit in juvenile boxers, and that earned her a scholarship.
Yes, we used to have the tournament which have been happening every year, which the tournament name is called Basiseka. Basiseka is a new foundation or a setup to give the youth or the juvenile a platform for them to showcase what they have. And it was clear that the last one that happened, that was December 2020, they give a chance that they want females to come and participate. And it was clear that Najat is with me pushing the mind to become a boxer and start. I said, no, Najat, there is a potential tournament coming on. We need to go there. You need to go there. Go and prove yourself and showcase what you got. You can't be in a room all the time, be in the gym, so you have to go there. So this is where I psych her, and we just got prepared within a short time, and we enter into the tournament. And she did well, she did great, and she became the best female boxer of the tournament. And from there, she was selected to be one of, the boxers who got a scholarship So now she is on the scholarship in support of school, books, and I mean 1 or 2 things like monthly, get some kind of provisions to move on with.
Many years ago, Na Amele Texan took a bold decision to start boxing. Maybe at the time, Na was the only female boxer. She, more than anyone else, knows how difficult it is for a girl to punch her way through male-dominated sport like boxing.
Boxing is a very disciplined game. The time I start boxing, my coach used to taught me, do this, don't follow this people, follow this people, don't go here, go here. That's the coach's, that's the work of the coach. And the boxer, coach supposed to be the welfare of the boxer. He's supposed to know the welfare. They handle the boxer where to go and where not to go, what to do and not to do. So it's in the hands of the coach. But my advisor to Najat, she should look at me and do what I said and do what I do, and where I reach and I couldn't continue to continue. This is just a normal talk people always saying. What about Serena Williams? She gave birth to, I mean, like some of the athletes like Marianne Joyce we know from US, Serena Williams from US, some African country athletes give birth. But that's the way we used to talk. When you wear a military uniform, they said the men are scared to call you. So when you are a boxer, when a man called you, then you start punching the man. Oh.
Don't want any coach, Carloku. It's a tune de she na chicken field. Yes, I've been the Ketafia. In your do in boxing, I mata tight fine. She do a help with the Jigaba.
If Najat is to realize her dream of redefining what it means to be a female boxer, the Jamestown girl would just have opened the door for history to finally recognize the skill and talent of women in the ring beyond their gender.
Welcome back on the AM show. And at this point, we get into our big stories. In fact, one major story we're looking at today before we go to Parliament, and that has to do with education. You recall that yesterday we spoke to major stakeholders on the economy, finance, and what they are looking forward to in 2023, the business community. Today, we take a look at education, how far we've come, how far we have to go. It's interesting because just yesterday, someone who worked under Ignatius Kutu Echampong was talking to me about precisely this subject, education, and that we are not making enough progress as a country because we're not getting it right with education. Well, joining us for that discussion today, we have Thomas Musa, General Secretary of NAT. We also have Dr. Peter Pate Anti, Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies. In the studio, we have Divine Kpe, he is Programs Manager, Africa Education Watch. We'll also be joined by Larry Agbado, Editor, Teacher Education Journal, and Dennis Labi, President of the National Union of Ghana Students. All of these gentlemen join us for this conversation. It's a packed house, and I'd like to say a very good morning to all of you gentlemen, and a very happy new year as well, since I have not had an interaction with any one of you this year. Merry Christmas, belated, Happy New Year, and thanks for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, Brennan. Happy New Year to you and your
viewers and listeners.
Okay, so I'm hearing so many voices, but I know all of you are on hand. Let me come into the studio before I go online one more time. Divine, good to have you.
Good to be here, Benjamin.
And it's been quite a while.
Yeah.
Somewhere last year we spoke. It's been maybe some 4, 5, 6 months since we had an interaction.
It's been virtual, and it's good to be here in person this year. And thanks for having me.
Great. All right, so let's get into this conversation. Let's start with the basics. I'll start in the studio with you before I go online. When you look at our educational sector, what is your reading as of 2022, the end of 2022? What had you seen from the very basic level to the secondary level to the tertiary level of our education? And let's not forget vocational education as well, CTVET, crucial to the development of industrialized economies. What was your reading? I'll give each one of you, gentlemen, about a minute to expatiate on this, and then we'll delve further. But I'll start with you, Divine.
All right, thank you, and good morning to viewers. And let me also use the opportunity to say Happy New Year to family, Executive Director Kofi Asare, and then colleagues at Edward, and then teachers also at large.
Right.
Yeah, last year has been a very busy year for us. We have been doing a lot on education financing to see how best we can improve education financing in the country, because our reading has been that the trend for financing of education has been declining. So we're working with partners, including the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education, to see how best we can improve equitable allocation to education, and not only the equity aspect, how best we can improve spending efficiency. So last year we recorded a decline in education expenditure, and sadly this year too we have recorded the same thing. So it is our expectation that this year we will look at how best we can ensure that the little we have put into education, we can get the maximum out of it. So last year, yes, it's been a year for education financing, and this year too, because of the economic challenge that we're in and we have seen a decline in the education expenditure again, we are going to focus also on that, because the allocation has already been made. What we can now do is to ensure that we work with government to see how best government can ensure prudent management of that allocation.
Thanks for your summary comments. Let me move on to Dennis Labi, President of the National Union of Ghana Students. What would be your roundup in less than a minute of the educational space in 2022, so that we can follow from there and get into what our expectations can be in 2023? Mr. Labi, if you can hear me, and please unmute, I'd like to find out from you, what would be your summary of how we fared, educationally speaking, in 2022 at all levels, and what we'll leave for later what our expectations will be in 2023. But how do you feel on the educational sector we fared in 2022?
Thank you very much, and good morning to you, and Happy New Year to every one of you too. I think that on the educational front, it was quite a turbulent year, if you ask me. My summary is that it was a turbulent year. It was a year of a lot of issues and challenges for us, especially from a student perspective. You can't deny the fact that we had a very rough year, especially towards the ending of the year, where there was so much of agitations from the unions and the students' movement too. So in summary, I would call it a turbulent year.
In summary, you would call it a turbulent year. Let me bring in Thomas Musa as well. Mr. Musa, if you can hear me, what would be your roundup, your appreciation of 2022 in terms of education?
A difficult one. From the KG level, primary, JHS, up to the SHS level, it was quite a difficult one. Soon we will speak to the figures and the issues. But to sum up the whole thing, it was a difficult year for all the levels, the KG, primary, JHS, up to the SHS.
Right, and we'll get into some of those details as we move along. Let me also bring in Larry Agbado, editor with the Teacher Educational Journal. For you, what is your appreciation of the year just passed in terms of education? How did we fare?
All right, thank you very much, Ben. I think generally 2022 was a tough one, especially when it comes to teacher education, with specific mention of our colleges of education. We had back-to-back strikes from CTAG, that's the Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana. We had from CENSTAC, that is the Colleges of Education Non-Teaching Staff Association of Ghana. And it really affected the academic calendar for the colleges in the year 2022. As we said, we'll be looking at the way forward in this year, but we expect government to be proactive going forward in 2023.
Okay. Let's now look at some of our other guests. Do we have Dr. Anti with us? Dr. Anti?
Yeah.
Your roundup, please.
Yeah, for me, it was a mixed bag. We had challenging issues. We were able to chop some successes. And I think that the challenges outweigh the successes, especially if you have followed the education strategic plan. Last year was the 5th year of its coming into being. And if you assess the various reforms that have been undertaken under the sector, you will see that some of them we are doing well, others too we are not doing so much well. So for me, last year was a mixed bag of both challenges and good opportunities. And I believe that as we go ahead, we will see how we're able to put much emphasis on the good things, and then also see how we're able to address the challenges. Thank you.
All right, so I think I've cleared the entire field, addressed each one of you. Is there any of you that I have not addressed on the subject? All right, thank you very much. I just heard my producer whisper something naughty in the background. Anyway, so now that we've cleared that hurdle, let's get to some specifics. Mr. Musa, you started talking about from the primary level moving forward and what we missed out on. I would like you to expand on that, especially when it comes to basic education, the exams that we had planned for Class 4, among others. What is wrong with our basic education as it stands now? What are the problematic areas from syllabi, curricula, to the bits about teaching? What are the problems, major problems?
So thank you very much. You see, when it comes to the issue of education, and particularly teaching and learning, the employer has 3 main duties or 3 main obligations. The first one is to employ a competent staff. Number 2 is for the employer to provide the tools, the equipment, and all the needed resources that that competent staff will deploy, employ, and put in place to ensure that the required output is achieved. Then the last aspect or duty of the employer is to provide supervision to get these 3 things done. Now, this thing, having said this, the employee, on the other hand, will have to bring about what we call the HR output, talking about his competence, talking about the issue of his motivation, morale, performance, attitude, and all those things to bear on the delivery of the output. Now, when you come specifically to the primary level, it will shock you to hear that in the year 2019-2020 academic year, and specifically in the year 2019, from September to December, the capitation grant was paid. And when you when you entered into the year 2022, January to March also was paid. And so in the year 2020, that was the last time the capitation grant was paid, up to March 2020. The remaining months, nothing was paid. The whole year of 2021, nothing was paid. And then in the year 2022, only one was paid. And when that money was paid, they were asked to use 50% of that particular money to write exam. The question is this: if you employ a competent staff, and that competent staff is not provided with all the needed tools, equipment, and material to deliver, what else do we expect? Don't let us forget that the World Bank's country report, that on the Human Index report in 2018, made it clear that if care is not taken, 56% of our human capital will go waste, owing to quality of education that is provided for our people. Look, we have gotten to a stage where, regardless of what we do, if we do not put in the required resources at all the levels, particularly at the KG levels. Look, my brother, consistently, if you go to look at our KG level, it will shock you about the happenings in the teaching and learning at that particular stage. And we are also told that in Ghana, if you look at the statistics, the number of children born every year is approximately 700,000. And so if we are in a country where approximately about 700,000 children are born every year, the question is, what kind of provisions are we making for them, such that by the time that they get to age 4, we can guarantee that we have enough KG classrooms and all that. Time will not permit me to go into the budget as regarding what we started as far back as 2017. Having spoken about the issue of the primary, and let me come to the SHS aspect. Look, if you look at the SHS aspect carefully, in fact, government must be commended. As for the free SHS, we must all commend government for that bold initiative. Nobody can take that away from government. Since the implementation of the free SHS, we can all testify to the fact that at least we have 1.2 million of our children who are now in school, and they would not have been in school but for the free SHS. So that particular policy deserves commendation. But in as much as we are commending government for that bold initiative, we believe that the time is right for the policy to be reviewed. Why do we say that? In fact, as far back as 2017, the Ghana National Association of Teachers made it clear that instead of adopting the equality approach, it would be better for us to use the equity one, or what is called in policy development as redistributive approach. Because for far too long, we've been doing what we call the distributive, which is also the same as the equality approach. But going by the equity approach, let us give it to those who need it more and those who can afford. Let us see also how they can come into help. Having said that particular one, the free SHS, the funding aspect is quite difficult. Look, if you take feeding specifically, the amount of money that is paid there is 5 cedis 20 pesos. And of this amount, I repeat, is 5 cedis 20 pesos per day. Now, per this particular amount, you have about 70% that goes to the buffer stock company. 70% of that particular money goes to the buffer stock company. And if you calculate it, that is about 3.44 there about Ghana cedis. And the remaining, that is about 1 cedi 56 pesos or so, also goes to the school. And it is that particular same money that the school, that 1 cedi 56 pesos or so, that is what they will use for the school maintenance. They used to buy perishables and to the extent running the schools. Because the government subvention for the past 2 years or so, that money has not been paid. Has not been paid. And that tells us the kind of difficulty the schools will run. Because if there is no funding, the schools don't have money. How will they run the schools? How will they run the schools? So these are challenges that we cannot run away from. And we need to do everything to get it done. Particularly in the interest of quality teaching and learning. And like I have said, if we do not provide that kind of resources to help the schools, I tell you, we will run into difficulty regardless of all our good intent and purpose that we might have. This is my plenary comment for now.
I want to...
not even permit me to go to the teacher training colleges.
All right, you can go to the teacher training colleges, but before you do, and I'll give each one of you, gentlemen, ample time to respond to these issues. But
okay, thank you. So okay, thank you.
Just hold there, Mr. Musa. So I want, because you've brought free SHS, I want to run this by you. There have been calls, numerous calls, innumerable in fact, for free SHS to be tweaked in terms of those who can actually sustain it, those who can pay, like parents. And I recall reading something about the World Bank assisting our country to review free SHS, which I found very interesting. But I just wanted to run this example by you. Kenya's free secondary education. And they've been doing this. They started this long before we did. They started in 2008. The program was free secondary education. And for day schools and boarding schools, there were different dynamics. For the day schools, parents were obliged to pay about 23% of the total. That is for day schools. And for boarding schools, parents had to pay all fees. All the fees. If you were in the system, you paid all the fees with a minute government subsidy. But for the day students, they were paying 23% of the total as parents. Do you feel it is high time we tweaked our own free SHS system, good as it is? I don't think there's anybody who says free education is wrong. When Nkrumah did it, we saluted him. We can't say otherwise in this administration. But the point is the implementation. What do you think about this?
Look, as far back as 1951, the name of the schools are called local authority. Check, go and check. The names of the schools at the time were local authority. It means that the locals, that they have certain amount of input into it. They have certain amount of input into what goes into running of the schools. Because at the end of the day, their children will benefit out of it. So if at this particular point, we are saying that states should absorb every particular thing, when we know very well that we don't have unlimited resources, then certainly it stands to reason that we need to review our policy. Look, I have read about Kenya and other related African countries. The best approach is this. Adopt the policy that is good for you. You see, it is not, you cannot say that because somebody is doing this, doing that, you want to do the same thing. As far back as 1951, we have a policy or we have an arrangement which I would call the hybrid approach. Government is involved and the parents are involved and the school authorities are involved. That is why we have the school management system, the SMC. That is why we have the PTA. We have the old boys, we have the chiefs and all those people. They all contribute certain amount of resources to get it done. So if you go to those areas, number one, the chiefs will provide you land. The old boys will also provide you with, particularly those that are well placed. They do what we call homecoming to come and support the schools. These are all part of our governance system of our education. And we are saying that the current approach, where we are saying that government should absorb, do everything, I think that it will be quite difficult given our financial position. The time has come that we go back to our old ways. Our old ways simply meaning that the old boys are ready to help, the parents are ready to help. If I say the parents are ready to help, I am not talking about saying that everybody should pay. No. Let us adopt the equity system, which we call the redistributive policy. Let us go to it. Those who can help, let them help. I don't think, look, let me conclude on this particular one. Where I am coming from, and as Ghanaians, there is a saying that I repeat, I can't say that so it stands to reason that the fact that an individual gives birth to somebody, it is not the responsibility of that particular individual alone to take care of it. The state is involved, the church is involved, the old boys are involved. We are all involved in bringing that person up. After all, if at the end of the day, that person becomes a doctor, it is not only the father and mother that benefits from it. That person who becomes a doctor, who becomes a teacher, who becomes a lawyer, the society benefits from it. The engineer will benefit society. And that is why it is a collective responsibility. And that is why if some of us are talking about we need to review it, one person will give birth, but it takes more than that particular individual to get that particular child get the best. So let us look at our system. After all, we've done it before since 1951. We have a lot of examples. We have a lot of good things that we have done since 1951. We can go back to some of these policies and let's just get our way clear and get out from the situation where we are now.
So you are proposing, Sankofa, we should go back to our roots. Some have said that we've been tweaking or playing with our education system too much.
No,
3 years,
please,
3 years
please,
SHS, 4 years SHS,
please,
this and that.
Let me clarify. We are talking here about funding. The issue now is about funding.
Right.
And the funding approach is what we are talking about, regardless of the system you put in place.
Okay.
If you don't give it funding, it will be cost 90.
All right.
The key thing here is about funding. And the funding is, look, let us bring in the PTA, let us bring in the old boys, let us bring in the SMC, let us open up the system. Let it not be said that, well, look, today, if you go to all the schools, the parents will tell you, free SHS. That is the rendition.
All right. Let me just do this, because when I move on to other guests, I want them to address the entire spectrum from primary to tertiary and vocational. So I'll let you have that final take. You had wanted to talk about teacher training colleges as well. You can look at the tertiary system altogether. Of course, recently we heard about the licensure or licentiate exams and the failure rates and the reassessment and all of that. What is your take about the tertiary educational level in Ghana? Are we preparing students for the work market, or are we still doing rote learning?
Yes,
So please make that brief so I can move on to my other guests.
Yeah, I have difficulty regarding the pass rate and all those things that were put out there. Yet we are interrogating it, and we are going to engage the very institution that put out that particular figure, because it looks like people are using it to justify other things that do not sit well, particularly with the teacher unions. But that is just by the way. Let me get back to the substantive issue. Look, regarding the issue of our brothers and sisters who are in the colleges of education, which is now a satellite campuses of the various, now a tertiary institution of the various satellites, the universities. Before the implementation of this particular policy, many things were taken into consideration. It was provided for in the budget. Discussions were done on it. Then suddenly, we just saw a letter on social media from the Ghana Education Tertiary Commission talking about the issue of the quota system. But they came back to deny that it is not the quota system, giving all kinds of reasons. You see, when you are implementing policies, particularly policy like this, which is an issue that borders on teacher education, it could have been better for some kind of engagement to be done. Carry the people along. Nothing like that was done. You suddenly see the thing on social media. Then the question is, people begin to ask questions, people begin to throw out things out there. We think that the approach of reviewing this particular policy was not the best. And I repeat, it's not the best. We don't go that particular way. And something ought to be done. The same thing is happening at the university level. Why are the NUCs complaining? Why is NUCs complaining at this particular time? It is because if Parliament has passed a law and the university feels that they need to do something about it, it could have been better to engage the students, engage other stakeholders to get it done. It is this lack of social dialogue, this social engagement that is creating more problems for us. And we believe that the managers of our various institutions should learn from this.
Right.
That you cannot do things, take it up and believe that the people who are working with you will just take it hook, line, and sinker. It doesn't work that way.
All right. Thank you for those thoughts that you've shared. Let me come to Dr. Anti now. Looking at the entire spectrum from primary to tertiary education and vocational education, what are the pros and cons? Where are we getting things right? Where are we getting things wrong? And in 2023, what would you like to see us address? What are the crucial areas to look at?
Thank you very much. I think that after 2017, we embarked on certain kinds of reforms in the education sector. So at the basic level, we saw the review of the entire curriculum, and introduced the standard-based curriculum. We did the introduction of the Common Core program or curriculum. These are important dynamics that we have in the basic sector, because over the years, education changes, and therefore you need to review your documents, the documents you are using to train your students, to reflect the needs at that particular moment. So these are good things that we've done. We also saw, last year, we also saw the first batch of students who are now doing degree programs at the colleges of education, leaving school. That was one of the teacher reforms that we embarked in 2018. And that is why I keep going to 2018, because we started a strategic plan which is supposed to end in 2030. And so far, we are doing almost 6 years now. So these are important reforms that we have taken. You look at the NTC, they have introduced the licensure that my senior brother Musa was talking about. NTC is also doing other things. Now CPD is becoming an integral part of teacher issues at the basic and even at the secondary level. So these are things that we see might help improve the delivery of quality education in the sector. I will not bore you with free SHS, but we saw the challenges of free SHS last year and the previous years. We've seen that free SHS, in terms of its mandates, have helped moving, bridging the gap of gender parity, the gender parity ratio. We've seen some level of infrastructure at some of the secondary schools, and then we've seen an improvement in enrollment across board. But of course, when it comes to one, finance, and two, when it comes to quality issues, some of us have had certain reservations, because we feel that the needed scientific work that needs to be done to be able to say for sure that free SHS is giving the kind of results that we are ascribing the WASI performance to is the case. But until such reports or scientific works are done, some of us will still have those reservations. Again, we also feel that because the contribution, the amount of money being spent on free SHS is 100% government, whether it's ABFA or it is from government revenue, it is still from government. We feel that if government is cash-strapped, if government is not having enough money, you would definitely see a reduction in the you witness the challenges that we have witnessed at the free SHS level. That is why we have been talking about this. I think the first year that free SHS was introduced, 2017, I authored an article and I said that the three themes for the policy, which is equity, quality, and access, the equity variable in there is not what we are doing. And my brother Thomas said it. They are doing equality. But the theme for one of the themes, the broad theme for the policy is equity. But so if you are doing gender equity, that is good. But you are not doing financial equity. But you said you would do financial equity. So we should go back to the drawing board and look at that particular. Again, I'm also aware that the secondary school curriculum is being reviewed, which is also a very good thing that we are doing. I personally have a problem with issues of infrastructure across board, and I think that we are not making good use of the data that we collect every year. The Ministry of Education collects data, the annual school census survey every year, and by a click of a button, they know the number, the state of infrastructure, the number of teachers, the number of desks, the number of tables. They know the number of trained teachers. They know everything in every single basic school in the country, because every year we do that collection and we put them together, and that is what is used to produce the education sector performance report. But we are not going through those data to ensure that we produce the needed kind of infrastructure for the places that we know that data-wise they are lacking. And that is why every time when we come out with the schools under 3, there are no dexes there, it baffles my mind, because that data is sitting with the Ministry of Education, and they know that these basic schools have this number of chairs, they have this number of dexes, and everybody in the education sector knows what I'm talking about. So I don't understand why we continue to have these infrastructure challenges with our education sector at the tertiary level.
Before you get to the tertiary level, so let me find out, just as I put to Thomas Musa, when it comes to the Kenyan example, when it comes to free secondary education, they started in 2008, and 23% of the quotient is paid by parents for the day students. For the boarding students, parents pay practically everything, and it is minutely subsidized by government. Do you feel that is something along the lines of what we should be doing in Ghana, especially in these economic times?
If you are going to follow the principle of equity, then technically, yes, some parents would have to take some kind of burden off government shoulders. And this is what that practically means. Government is funding the thing 100%. So when government is cash-strapped, it means that the amount of money that is going there would reduce. But if you have another source of funding, for example, if 70% of funding is coming from government, and we have 30% coming from parents, any kind of financial model that we would want to put together, whether voluntary contribution or whatever it is, if 30% is coming from that particular source, it means that when government is having challenges with the 70%, we know some 30 somewhere that can be still used to push the things that we are doing in our secondary schools. But so far as 100% is coming from government, anytime government is stuck with financial challenges, free SHS is going to suffer. But if we had that kind of partnership, and education is a collective responsibility. I like what my senior brother Thomas said. He said that in those days, everybody was part of the educational system. Now the communication is that it is free. Even simple responsibilities that are supposed to be carried by parents are being shifted and thrown away. And when teachers bring these things up, they are told that, hey, everything is supposed to be free. And it's unfortunate that the communication has gone that way, but we need to reverse that.
All right, quickly on technical tertiary education, and if you want to touch on technical and vocational education as well, we can do that in about a minute if you can.
Yeah, sure. So with technical and vocational education, it gladdens my heart that we are doing a lot now in that space. Of course, we have the TVS services now that is supposed to take care of technical and vocational education. That is an important feat that we have taught in the education sector. I think in 2015, I authored a paper with another person when we were planning to convert the polytechnics into technical universities. I feel that it is time we have a second look at that and see how much we've been able to make an improvement in terms of the conversion and what needs to be done. Tertiary education, my biggest problem has been financing, and I'm glad that the news president is here. See, the problem for me is not much about increment of fees from the universities. The problem is how do we fund those who access tertiary education? And the single most important variable that is in display here is the Student Loan Trust Fund. If we have a very potent and efficient Student Loan Trust Fund, this increment would hit students, of course, but then they will be cushioned by this, the Student Loan Trust Fund, the financial support that is coming from there. Over the years, the trust fund has not been living up to their mandate. You don't release funds to students in the mid or at the end of a semester. Nobody needs money at that time. The monies are supposed to come either 1-2 weeks before reopening or 1-2 weeks after reopening, because that is when students need the money to pay fees, to pay their accommodation, to buy textbooks and other things. But that has been the operational style of the Student Loan Trust Fund. They release funds in mid-semester, at the end of the semester, and sometimes they even default in paying. So when we are looking at tertiary financing, I feel that the student union, in as much as they push for a very low fees, they should rather focus more on the mandate of the Student Loan Trust Fund, and make sure that at least at the beginning of the semester, every disbursement is made to students on that particular fund, and that will take a lot of burden from our dear students.
Since you mentioned, the NUC's president, let me bring him in. Dennis Labi is president of the National Union of Ghana Students. You've been following the conversation. What do you see when it comes to education in Ghana, but especially at the tertiary level and maybe vocational level? And you can also chip in the bit about the user fees of the various institutions at the tertiary level, approved by Parliament, and the entire storm that has raised. I've listened to you talk about those issues. The University of Ghana, for example, has come to talk about Parliament's approval and how they delayed this from the 2020-2021 academic year, 2021-2022 academic year, and now they're enforcing it. What are the gray areas, the problematic areas with these? Dennis?
Thank you very much, Benjamin. I first of all want to talk about a bit on the basic education level before I zoom into the tertiary
Go ahead.
level. I think that from the beginning of the year, last year, the National Union of Ghana Students committed ourselves to a rigorous research into basic school infrastructure levels. And we came out to say that there is a huge deficit that exists, and the deficit is a deficit that can be cleared easily. Our position was that at the basic school level, there's some of the nuances or some of the issues that exist in infrastructure deficits. It's not something that will take the country so much in order to clear. We estimated a total of about $500 to $800 million over a period of 3 to 5 years in order to ensure that all schools under trees are eliminated. But unfortunately, because we are doing about 95% basic school enrollment average, it looks like there is low political commitment towards that. In our meeting with the president on 2 occasions, we have brought to his attention that it could be a legacy for himself and his administration. So we want to focus on the basic school infrastructure. Currently, we are doing a project in Upper East. We are building a school for some of the communities in Upper East, and the conditions under which young children, and I listened to Mr. Musa when he spoke about the busy school infrastructure conditions. And it is pathetic. If you look at some of the conditions, schools under trees, you would ask yourself if indeed we are a middle income status, that we subject students to have classmates with goats, sheep, and what have you. It's something that we have spoken about. Though we believe that increment in capitation grant is good, we would have to focus on the infrastructure deficit that exists in that area. And on the issue of secondary, I won't speak much about that because I think that it is one area which is seeing so much improvement. I believe that if we give it time, it will get better. But on the bit of the Kenyan example, Kenya, as we speak now, is not doing free SHS. Kenya is doing subsidized SHS. From the student quarters, we believe that what is draining this country is not the 5 billion that we spend on free SHS. Mind you, the Auditor General's report indicates about 10 billion lost to wastages and loopholes. If that 10 billion, even half of it is made, is brought back, that alone could be a good cushioning for the free SHS.
Dennis, quick point before you continue. I think the point you're making is moot. We all accept that. The only difference is that people are still questioning whether it's 2 billion, 1.2 billion, or 5 billion that we're pumping into free SHS. How can we streamline it in terms of equity and in terms of ensuring that those who can pay can actually pay? Because any gains made there will shore up our economy and could be diverted to other sectors, including infrastructure for schools. So the point is not about people lamenting that too much money is going into education. It's about streamlining it. I felt that point had to be clarified.
Ben, the question we need to ask ourselves is that, first of all, is that the problem that we are facing? The problem is lack of funding. It's not that the funding that is coming, we have a problem with it. The lack of funding is a matter of government. It's a matter of finding money to fill in the void. Not to say that the little we are taking there should be used in a different way. We believe that more should be pumped there. And that is our simple presentation. On the issue of funding, we believe that it is not wrong to pump 5 billion into education if you are spending 10 billion on wastages. That is what we want to make clear, that the country is spending so much on things that could be saved to pump into free SHS. On the issue of equity, I believe that it will rather create much more of a problem in our system of differentiation if we attempt to go that line. We are not there yet. We don't have a robust statistical system. We don't have a robust measuring mechanism to initiate anything called true equity at this stage. But I'll leave that conversation to a better time, since the metrics are quite detailing.
Just a little bit to add. It's always interesting when this point comes up. You know, there are people who openly said that, look, for me, my children are in there, but I don't feel they should be benefiting from free education. Could this be a starting point? And maybe when Thomas Musa comes in at the end, and maybe Divine Prayer as well, could it be a starting point where government would say, okay, for all of you citizens who are parents, who feel we can pay part, at least a portion, let us know what portion you can pay of the free SHS bill, and we'll let you do that as a starting point. Do you think that would be a good starting point?
Ben, what would that amount to?
It would be optional. People would have the option. And if we have the numbers coming in over time, we could have a policy on that.
Hold on. Now, this is the situation. This is what we might start doing. Now, there will be there will become classism. There will be classism. Now, there will be a different way of treating those whose parents are paying and those whose parents are not paying. That's what I'm saying.
How would that come about? It's the same system. We're just saying if you can afford to do it, bring what you can, your widow's mite.
Even when I was in secondary school, where teachers organized extra classes, we saw how teachers treated those who came and paid for their extra classes and those who did not come. So what I'm saying is that practically, it's a brilliant idea, but practically, this country is not ready for that. Let's not even go there. If we try, we will run this country into an apartheid system of a sort, where people who pay for free SHS or who pay for their secondary school are treated in a different way. And those of us whose parents cannot afford are also treated in a different way. So that's what I'm saying, that this would have a full conversation. Let's put it down, because we might not be able to deal with it very circumspectly. But now to the issue of tertiary education and technical education. If there is anything that I would outwardly or openly commend this government with, is the technical education and how it has raised the standard. I think that on the African scale, we've committed so much, even more than any other country, when it comes to increase in expenditure on technical education. And it's something you give to the government. But now the issue of tertiary education, there are two main challenges.
Quick. I'm sorry I keep interjecting, but sometimes you make very important points, and I want to take you up on those. You talk about technical education and the investments made in there. But in terms of the results, and that's what I always want to look at. Yes, we're pumping resources in there. Are we seeing the results from where you sit? Are you seeing the results? Because guess what? The technical space, that vocational space, is what makes any country to thrive, to industrialize. Are you seeing the impact of that?
So first of all, Benjamin, there are two phases of the impact. There is a process impact and there is a resource impact. The process impact, I think that we are seeing it, because you can clearly see an increase or a jump increase in enrollment and the entire appreciation of it. You can also see increase in the infrastructure development and quality. Now, the resource part of the outcome or the end resource is something that takes time to see. So if you take a typical economy like Germany, which is thrived on technical and vocational education and engineering, it took about 10 years to have resource. You start increasing your expenditure and your effort in technical education. You may have to be consistent for a period of about 10 years to get the right resource. So what we may have to tell this government is that, our government is that their consistency in investment, in effort, in technical education may have to continue for a period beyond 5 years in order to have impact on the economy and impact on livelihoods. That is something that I would also want to put across, that it is in phases when it comes to the impact that we can have out of technical education.
So quickly on the tertiary bit. I know you are at the tertiary level and you have a lot, so I'll give you 2.5 minutes. Let's use that.
Yeah. So on the tertiary level, I have a lot of issues, and we have been consistent at coming at government on some of the issues. One is infrastructure, and two is financing or funding. All still ties into funding. Let me first of all deal with the challenge of funding. The challenge of funding has two sides. One is what we are paying, and two is how we are paying it. What we are paying is influenced by what government is doing and the economic situation. One, on what government is doing, that is where we have a big issue with government. One, since 2017, when you enacted Act 947, that says that the finance minister can have the right to cap an institution like Get Fund and decide that though we pay 2.5% of the VAT to Get Fund to fund education in this country, they are not going to give the money to Get Fund. They're going to sit on some and give some to Get Fund. So you realize that there's been between 60 to 70% since over the last 3 years, and last year 81% released to Get Fund in allocation. The danger with that is that even that 60% that Get Fund accrues, let's say Get Fund accrues 1.8 billion, they will give Get Fund 1.2 billion. That 1.2 billion does not even go. Just about 800 will go. Not forgetting that about 600 million was already taken. Now you come to a year like this year, which is my worry, that this year the finance minister presents to government or parliament that Get Fund will accrue 4.6 billion. Out of that 4.6 billion, Get Fund will receive only 1.8 billion to fund education in this country. And that represents 39%. Imagine we deciding to commit money to education. Then the finance minister says, no, I'll give you just 39% of the money that you decided to commit to education. What that implication brings is that there will be a drain in infrastructure and there will be an upward increment in fees because every cost financing at this stage is being pushed to the students. And that is what has brought us to the situation where schools are increasing fees arbitrarily beyond the 15% approved by government. Now, Dr. Anti brings in a very good point of the student loan. That comes to my next point of funding or financing it. What we call the safety nets provided for students. All over the world, there is only one sustainable, robust method of supporting students, and that's student loan. So I was so happy when Dr. Anti was bringing it up. But I have said that this government has not shown so much commitment in ensuring that student loan is made better. One, you clear the grantor system, which was our biggest challenge in assessing the student loan.
Right, and that was a good thing. That was a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. I'm coming there. Then we praise you. Nooks comes out to say that you've done well. But that comes with an implication. When you take the grantor system away, you automatically call students to come and apply. Now your application increases to about 44,000 applicants at a go. If you have about 44,000 applicants a go, and Free SHS is also churning out students, then it tells you that there is an upward increase in applicants for student loan. But your funding does not commiserate that, it does not equate it. So then you would have a lot of people sitting on the system not having access to funds. And to worsen the matter, you present a budget to Parliament when 5 million is allocated to student loan last year. Then you decrease it to 3 million. That is catastrophic. It is catastrophic because now your fees to increase by 15%. Everything is going against the students. But what you are supposed to do for the students, if not stabilize it, you are decreasing it. At the end of the day, instead of you providing, then you compound the problem by cutting Get Fund funding to 39%. What that also means is that Get Fund won't have enough money to give to student loan. Mind you, Get Fund by law is supposed to release up to 10% of its monies to student loan to fund the loan.
Right.
Then you come with your 1% tax from the core communication tax. At the end of the day, what have I done?
Right.
We've proven to you that the metrics are strongly against funding education at the tertiary level. The metrics, as by a willful decision of state actors, university managers, and everything is orchestrated against the young student who is receiving tertiary education. So mind you, do not be surprised when you have a secondary enrollment average of about 77% to 80%, but a tertiary enrollment average of about 19 to 20%.
Right.
You would have to fill in a 50% gap without doing anything. You can't fill that gap.
Interesting point you make there as you conclude. Let me bring in Larry Agbado, editor, Teacher Education Journal. And I would like you, as you talk about your issues, the pros and cons, the pluses and minuses of our educational system, to also look at teacher education and what exactly is happening to that sector. Larry, over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Ben. When it comes to teacher education, we must praise ourselves or applaud ourselves for how far we've come in the past few years with the introduction of the Bachelor of Education program in the 46 public colleges of education. But that notwithstanding, its accompanying challenges are gradually washing off the good things that are happening in the colleges. We introduced this 4-year BEd program at a time that we had issues with infrastructure. So the program was introduced with the same infrastructure that was used in training teachers with Set A, that was used in training teachers with diploma. And with the diploma program that we just exited from, that had 2 years of students staying on campus and spending the last year off campus doing their practice. But with the BEd program, it's in such a way that students spend the entire 4 years on campus. So in their 4th year, they spend just 1 semester out doing practice, but they come back in the last semester of the 4th year to complete their program. And we have this same 2-year infrastructure that was used in handling the diploma program being used in handling the 4-year BEd program. Now, just last week, or I think a few days ago, JoyNews, together with the Teacher Education Journal, uncovered abandoned projects in almost all these colleges of education we're talking about. We have projects that have been existing for the past 12 years, for the past 10 years, 8 years. That needs completion. And in fact, when you go to most colleges, if these projects are completed today, we wouldn't have issues of infrastructure deficit. We wouldn't have issues of we capping the admission numbers in colleges. You go to a college like Bagabaga College of Education in Tamale. Ben, it will interest you to know that for the past 10 years, there's a 400-bed hostel facility there that is at its final stages. It has been roofed. This is not a project that came with the old system, like a dormitory setup. No, this is a hostel project. And for the past 10 years, that project has been left untouched. That notwithstanding, just 6 months ago, government awarded all the 46 public colleges of education 300-bed hostel projects, while we have a 400-bed hostel project that is yet to be completed. You go to a college like Wesley College of Education, their science lab has also reached its final stage. In fact, it has been painted roof. The only thing left is for the science equipment to be placed in the science lab, a 1-story building science lab. And for the past 8 years, that has also been left untouched. So you ask yourself, the teachers that are churned out from Wesley College of Education, what science practicals do they go through? So the issue of infrastructure in the colleges is really affecting almost every area of the college. Now, we have this issue of infrastructure. We have issue of feeding. You know very well, this government has been paying the student teachers allowance for the past 6 to 7 years now, since they came into power. But it's come with a huge challenge. And that challenge is that you have part of the allowance being paid to the students and part also going to the college in running the colleges. Out of this, government pays a token of 6 cedis, 50 pesos to feed these student teachers for a day. So you have breakfast, lunch, supper. that is made of this 60/50 persuasion. PRINCOF, that is the principals of the College of Education, have on several occasions called for an adjustment, an increase in this amount. But you all know the times we find ourselves in. Last year in July, we held a national dialogue on initial teacher education, where all these issues, we had all the stakeholders. Dr. Anti was there, and everyone was there, where we discussed issues affecting our teacher education institutions, specifically the colleges. We came out with proposals. Now, these proposals are at the door of government to implement them. Because we can't keep training teachers with these challenges. It's not helping the system. That aside, we now have the Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, their members, also demanding that, look, now that you have upgraded the colleges into tertiary institutions, we also demand a better conditions of service. They want to be at par with their colleagues who are in the traditional universities.
That's a fair deal, right?
Yes, that's a very fair view. That's a very fair view. Even, in fact, we have most of them running to the traditional universities. We have a whole lot of teachers from the colleges running to the traditional universities because they feel that over there, they will get better conditions of service. So most of the colleges you go today, and there's a serious staff attrition. That aside also, another challenge that we're having in the college that is really affecting the introduction of the B.Ed program has to do with the infrastructure as we're coming back to the admission. Now, we have some colleges that when it comes to infrastructure, they don't have any issue. So a college like Kibi College of Education, government has actually done its best with that college. When you go, the infrastructure has improved tremendously. The hostel, the lecture blocks, there's so much improvement over there. But that college this year has been given an admission figure of 290. When that college can admit about 500 or 600. Last year we had some
and that has been a concern that we've seen coming.
700 and the rest.
That's a concern we've seen coming in, you know, the quota system, so to speak, because of the resources available to these colleges of education. So they have the capacity to take in more, but because of the capacity, financial capacity, or who pulls the purse strings, they are being limited, and that's a problem.
Yes, and that's the problem. But for a college like Kibi College of Education that has an improved infrastructure, it's just best that at least you take them out of this situation of capping the admission numbers. We have some colleges that have also done so well by using their IGF to improve on the infrastructure. So those colleges could have been left out. But the situation is affecting all the colleges. And you see, the colleges itself, they are struggling in raising IGF to run the college. Because what is coming to them, so when you go to any college right now, by next week, Monday, most of the colleges will open. When you go to any college right now, when you find the principal, you don't find the finance officer. When you find the finance officer, you don't find the principal. Because we have suppliers chasing them day in, day out to get their debts. And they don't have the money.
Are you suggesting that these you know, leaders are running shift systems just to avoid their debtors?
Yes, and this is the time to open up the colleges. This issue of the trainee teachers allowance is a hard issue to crack. When you mention it, the students are not happy. But currently, as we speak, the students themselves are beginning to see the reality. This is the time to probably suspend the allowance. If you say cancel, they come at you, attack you and all that. But this is the time for us to suspend the allowance, one. Then allow the colleges to admit more. We've made mention of student loan.
So just to clarify, you say the student allowances should be not scrapped, but suspended for now.
Explain around words.
No, just clarify. Just clarify for me.
Explain around words.
Larry, what are you saying?
Who is speaking? Is it Dennis?
I know.
Yes,
will not
Dennis. First of all, I think that to come in
Dennis will
briefly on
certainly
that.
not be
All right, Dennis, I'll give you 30 seconds, quickly.
Yeah, first of all, I keep saying that the problem with our economy is not what we spend on education. So do not push it on education and make it look like if we stop teacher training allowance, which is less than 200 million in a year, even in our years, our entire educational sector will have problems solved. Get Fund is taking our money. 4.6 billion is being used for something else. So bring that money, and if it is not enough, you can tell us that we should suspend the entitlement of students or the things that students is used to cushion students. Until you cut the wastage, the profligate spending of the government machinery, it is impossible to tell students to sacrifice free SHS or allowances.
All right, Dennis, thank you for that interjection. Larry, go ahead. You have just about a minute and a half with your final comments.
Yes, I think, Dennis, at this point, we should all look at the situation we are in. If the allowance is suspended, that money can be as well pushed into improving infrastructure in the colleges. Now, to my last point on issues of teacher education, specifically the colleges, has to do with affiliation. 2023 is going to be a very tough year for the colleges because the 5-year affiliation with the 5 mentoring universities, Legon, UCC, KNUST, UDS, and Winneba, ends in September 2023. So the future of the colleges is at stake because governments and the relevant stakeholders will have to now come together to decide whether these colleges should be on their own after September 2023 or the mentoring with the 5 universities should still continue. Now, on several occasions, we've heard the Minister for Education talking about the fact that even some of these colleges are older than the universities that are mentoring them, and they can be on their own and all that. But let's take a lesson from what happened with our technical universities.
Right.
The way and manner in which government at the time rushed in converting these polytechnics to technical universities. It's the same situation we are in today. Are we going to also do the same thing, rushing to convert these colleges of education into universities? And you know what that means? Once you convert these colleges or some of these colleges into universities, it comes with its own financial implications.
Okay.
Where you have to cater for vice chancellors and the rest.
Okay.
These colleges have a unique identity. And I pray that government led by the Minister for Education and then its relevant stakeholders will come together and take the best step for the future of the colleges.
All right. Thank you for those important points you've made. Just hold for me, all of you gentlemen. This is a bit of a contribution from Dr. Ahmed Jinapo, Deputy Director, Ghana Tertiary Education Council. He actually has joined the conversation. Dr. Jinapo, Happy New Year to you, and thank you for joining the conversation. In about 3 minutes, what is your take on the discussion we're having?
Well, I think one or two things. Number one, let me take it up from where Larry ended, which is a challenge relative to the conversion of or transition of colleges of education within the spectrum of the tertiary educational landscape. I think at the end of the day, there wouldn't be a challenge in 2023 in the sense that there was a roadmap. The roadmap looked at colleges of education being absorbed by universities or they being autonomous. The Minister of Education, in his wisdom, thinks that we should look at it again. One of the proposals, as alluded to by Larry, has to do with whether they should become independent, autonomous universities. This is something that we have to look at. As he said, we are going to bring on all the different stakeholders involved within this architecture. And I should have to say that the conversion of the polytechnics to technical universities has not been a mistake. We believe that the technical universities are doing what is expected of them. And all we need to do is to encourage them. That said, I looked at the attire of the president of NUPS. It says Aluta Continua. In fact, that was the same matter that they word when they came to GTech the last time that we met them. And we told them there's no aluta. There's some kind of misunderstanding relative to the increment of fees. Government, through Parliament, has issued what the directive is, which is 15%. Some universities are not doing the same. But it will interest you to know that, as I did indicate with them when I met them, was that we are engaging the universities. Today, as we speak, the Minister of Education has called for an emergency meeting to meet some 5 universities who are, quote and unquote, believed to be charging beyond that rate. And that meeting is supposed to take place on the 5th of January, which is Thursday. I'm reliably informed that...
So which universities are going to be there? Is it the 5 traditional ones?
Well, the five universities, Eugene, KUST, UMAT, UCC, UEW. But I can tell you on authority that even within that 5, some of them have reversed back to the 15%. But what I want to say is that last year was quite tumultuous for us within the tertiary educational landscape. This year, we want to start on a very clean plate sheet. We don't want disturbances within the university architecture. So we are calling on the students to be patient, to be calm, and to move on their business. If it is the case that some students have paid more than the 15%, I think that anomaly is going to be remedied. So we just want them to be rest assured that everything is being done to make sure that there's sanity, there's calm, and everything is in place. Nobody is going to be short-changed. The Parliament of the Republic is the mandated body when it comes to the passage of laws. The law has been passed. All what we need to do is to make sure there's sanity. So this aluta continua, there's no aluta for it to continue.
Before you take leave of us, since you took a shot at the technical university system, I would like to find out from you, has that setup lived up to expectation after these few years of their conversion?
It is still evolving.
Just hold for me.
Let me tell you for a fact. I'm an alumni of University of Ghana. You and I know that University of Ghana, by what it was set up for and what it's supposed to do, cannot be said to have attained a status of perfection. We are in the process.
I think you're missing the context of my question. I'm not asking for perfection. I am saying that in these last few years, about 2 years, correct me if I'm wrong, that we've had these. What has been the fruit? What has been the upgrade? What has been the contribution to our educational life and to basically maybe even our work life? That labor. That's what I'm trying to find out. It's not about. Has it been?
I agree with you. Then my apologies for maybe misunderstanding you and not answering it as the question hopes to achieve. The fact of the matter is that the technical universities for us should not be seen as a collective entity. There are 10 institutions, even though they are all technical universities, but they are assessed on each on individual basis. As part of our job, which is GTech, we do something called cyclical review. Just last year, we assessed about 4 of them. This year, we are going to assess another 3 of them. And as part of the benchmark for assessing them, which is very important, what is their contribution in terms of employability? And as part of our policy moving forward, we've made it clear that for you to gain re-accreditation for any program, you must demonstrate evidence of what employability. So we refused to lump Accra Technical University with that of Bolgatanga Technical University. Each of them must be assessed on individual basis. So if we want to say that to what extent has all the technical universities contributed to the developmental aspirations of this country, then I think we'll be mixing the point. We assess them just as we assess the University of Ghana. And that is what we are supposed to do. But what we are interested in most is that these are a unique group of people or a unique group of institutions who are supposed to contribute in a certain manner to what we want to be as a nation. But when there's a drift moving outside their mandate or their niche, then that becomes problematic. But we are very interested in supporting them. It is one of the most important bases for our development. And we believe that if they are given the right impetus, they'll be able to do what is expected of them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jinapor,
for having joined us. And Happy New Year, sir.
Same to you, sir. Dr. Ahmed Jinapor is Deputy Director, Ghana Tertiary Education Commission. All of those on Zoom have had a bite. Let me give Divine Kwe, who is with Africa Education Watch, Programs Director, is it?
Senior Program Officer.
Senior Programs Officer, to have his take, and then we'll have a final round for all of you briefly to share your top-up thoughts with us. Divine?
Yeah, Ben, thank you. First of all...
And I know because all your colleagues have spoken, you have quite a lot to say, but we'll try to summarize where we can.
Of course. First of all, let me start by commending government for approving or allocating 2.1 million Ghana cedis to the Complementary Education Agency for the implementation of complementary basic education this year. This is important because this is the first time we have seen government going to finance CBE. The CBE program is actually targeting age 4 to age 14 children, age 8 to 14 children that are out of school, so that after 9 months of accelerated learning, they can transition to the formal education system.
Right.
So government has never sponsored that. It has always been the FCDO and then USAID and other sponsors. So it's good that this year we have seen government approving funds to have the CBE implemented. In fact, for the past 2 years, we haven't seen CBE implemented because there hasn't been any money. So that's good news. Now, let me come back to what we expect this year. When we are having a serious challenge in our education space when it comes to financing. You know already this year, the IMF, the 3-year IMF program will be starting. And we are already seeing the handwriting of what it will have, the implication it will have on education. So we are already seeing cuts in government expenditure to education. For the very first time in 20 years, we have seen the least allocation to education. That is, you see 3.09% of GDP allocated to education, and then you see 12.9% of government annual spending allocated to education. By international benchmark, we expect to spend at least 4 to 6% of our GDP on education. And if we are spending 3.09% this year, it tells you that we are even far below the least benchmark. And then also, still the international benchmark, we're supposed to spend 15 to 20% of our annual budget on education. And then the 12.9% tells you that we are still far below the expected international benchmark. Bear in mind that our president is the Global Partnership for Education champion for education financing, which means that he is to rally his other colleagues in Africa to increase resource allocation to education. But sadly, this is the year that we have seen for over 20 years, the least percentage allocation to education. Now, with the money allocated to education, it is expected that 62% will be going to pay salaries and compensation, and that compensation includes teacher trainees allowance. We'll be seeing 21% going for goods and service, and then 17% for capital expenditure, where we see that the capital expenditure basically is for improving infrastructure in our schools. The goods and service budget line is where we see education actually run. So the TLN that have to be bought and the textbooks that have to be bought for teaching and learning to happen effectively in our schools, we are seeing 21% of allocation to that. Now, we'll have to look into detail how government intends to distribute these goods and service money. I'm building a point just to bring the case that this year we have not only seen a reduction in the allocation to education, but also among the subsectors, there's a serious challenge when it comes to the goods and service line, because that is where education is actually run. So of the 21% of the total money, 24.7 billion allocated to education, we'll be seeing that basic education, only 3.1% will be going to it, and that is about 167 million. SHS will be having 52.03%. That's about 2.7 billion. Now, if you are having this issue that compared to previous year, that's i.e. 2022, and then this year, you are having your goods and service line that has actually decreased. if you look at the basic education level, the amount that was spent last year has decreased by 40% when we come to 2023. So it tells us that we are having a very limited money when it comes to allocation to education, and then also among the subsectors of education, we are having decreasing allocation to it, especially the money that is meant for improving the delivery of education. That's goods and service budget line. Now let's also look at the GET Fund aspect. GET Fund also, we have seen a tremendous reduction in that. You look at it, out of the total allocation of or accrual of 4.6 billion, we are seeing that only 1.8 billion that will be coming for GET Fund. So in a year, we have seen that 4.6 billion has accrued into GET Fund, but only 1.8 billion will be coming into the fund. And that actually represents also a decrease compared to last year. Last year, we were having about 81% of the accrual coming into GET Fund, but this year we are having only 39% coming into the fund.
So that's a problem, isn't it?
That's a problem. So the point I'm building is that we have seen that already the IMF program is seeing a cut in education expenditure. So it tells that this year we'll have to do things differently. Otherwise, the little money that we put into education will not get the best out of it. Because if you continue to do things as usual, you expect that at the end of the day, you don't get optimal result. So this year, we are expecting that with the little money that government has put into education, government must ensure spending efficiency so that where the money is going to, you are getting value for it. Mind you, when you read the Africa Union Economic Outlook, it tells us that we are spending about 58% of our money efficiently, meaning that about 42% we don't spend it well. When the allocation we make to education, the efficiency rate is 58%. So we waste about 42%. So it tells us that we need to do things differently to ensure that the little money that we are putting into education, we get the ultimate use for it. Now we don't waste it. That's why we've been so surprised that this year we are still seeing government allocating 241 million to teacher trainees. When already your resources are so scarce that you should begin to look at where you can cut wastage. And we believe, honestly, Larry was trying to say it should be suspended. I was saying that he was trying to play around West. That money has outlived its usefulness, and we term it as a wastage, so that government will even have to begin to look at how best it cuts on that waste. And then not only that, how best would government be able to ensure that when we come to procurement, we have value for all the procurement that we'll be doing. Otherwise, if you end up doing procurement and then end up, I don't want to be so blunt to say that money ends up in people's pocket. The little money that you are putting in the procurement, the little money ends up being to people's pocket. Then we are not going to get efficient use of what the little one we have put into the education space. So we're expecting government this year to do things differently when it comes to the spending. Right. That's the main
expenditure end of things.
That is the main concern.
I'd like you to conclude. It is clear where you're headed, but I'd like you to conclude on the bit about examination malpractices, because that's another area that Africa Education Watch has been pretty. I don't want to use the word ferocious, but you've had quite a focus on that. How concerned are you about the trend, and what would your expectations be in that respect? WAEC and others in 2023?
Sorry, you are giving me limited time. I have a lot to say. But before I come to WAEC, let me quickly also make the point that one thing government will need to do differently this year is to see how best it redistributes teachers. When you look at the deprived communities of Ghana, we are having about 5,000 deficits teachers. And when it comes to the urban areas, we are having surplus to labor. So, because this is very important, because this year, Ministry of Education submitted a proposal to recruit 9,000 teachers into the profession. So the budget for that was 302 million. but it was rejected by the Ministry of Finance because there's no money. So this year it means that we are not going to get the recruitment as the ministry expected to recruit 9,000 more teachers, but they said no, Ministry of Finance said there's no money, so that can't happen. So since there's a freeze on employment and that's going to affect the intake of teachers, the Ministry of Education will also have to look at how best it redistributes teachers across the country so that classrooms that are having teachers that are surplus to labor, they are reposted into the private part of the country. As I mentioned, there are about 5,000 more of those people that are in deprived areas that are not having teachers.
Right.
Now, back to the examination issue. We have done a lot of work when it comes to WAEC, or education assessment as a large, because we believe that for us to ensure that we get what the outcome of teaching and learning is, then we need to have credible data of when we are assessing the students. So we have seen some demonstration of commitment when it comes to the education minister to have the space reformed. We have engaged the minister this year, and he has told us his commitment to, among other things, what we said, okay, give the WAEC a regulator, but the minister intends to also upgrade the capacity of NACA, so that maybe instead of having a different body that is regulating the assessment space, we can have the authority of NACA upgraded so that they can have oversight responsibility over WAEC. We believe that WAEC should not be left to operate on its own without a regulator. So that commitment alone for us is good. If you're able to have that, and then we are able to see that there's a regulator, it gives some level of check to what WAEC does, and maybe that can address some of the challenges when it comes to examination irregularities. Finally, because you are on my nerve to conclude, finally, also expect this year for funds to be released anxiously, and not only that, the money should be released in full. One of the challenges that we see in the education space is that allocation is good, you see the allocation done, but at the end of the year, you don't see all the money released. So if you have allocated nicely in a budget that I intend to spend 24.7 billion Ghana cedis on education this year, and among the various subsectors, we believe that at the end of the day, when we are doing the expenditure trend for all the various sub-levels of education, we would have seen that the money meant for them are actually released. Otherwise, when the money you are already given is little, and then at the end of the year, you are also not going to see that all the money are released, then it's going to put a serious constraint on education. So going forward within a space of a year, we believe that government will be prudent on how it used the little money that's committed to education this year, and then also to begin to look at how it redistributes teachers to have equity in the space, and also ensure that money are released in full.
Thank you, Divine. For your wrap-up comments, gentlemen, I want you to, even as you talk about the final issues on your mind, I also want you to reflect on these. One, this first one will go to all of you as part of your reflection, but the second one will be specific to Mr. Thomas Musa. The first, education linked to development. In 1959, when the Cuban Revolution took place, there were lots of socioeconomic disparities, which also showed the cracks in education. 23% of students in Cuba at the time were not able to read and write. 41% of those who were in the rural areas could not do so. So the disparities were wide. But within the space of a year, Fidel Castro, and I have studied in Cuba, so at least I know what goes on there. There may be the other aspects of it. We can always look at the negatives, but how about the positives? Within 1 year, Fidel Castro was able to close that gap. In fact, he announced at the UN General Assembly in 1960 a campaign to combat ignorance and illiteracy on his island. And there was a major shift. In fact, in less than a year, the illiteracy rate dropped to less than 4%. And I was telling you about 23% in some areas, 41% in others, dropped to about 4%, and Cuba was declared quote, a territory free of illiteracy. How can we get there? Because our development will also be hinged on how educated our population is. It's not rocket science. Go to any developed country and the statistics are there. That's the first one I want all of you to look at. The second one will go specifically to Thomas Musa. There is that call for labor, a 60% increment in your base pay. So that is the demand that has been made. What do you think that is going to yield in 2023? And if you don't get what you want, do you think that is going to result in any labor action, industrial action? I'll start with you, Thomas Musa. Each one of you will have a maximum of 2 minutes. Mr. Musa.
So thank you very much. Then, please kindly give me time because there are issues I need to respond to.
But we don't have so much, so I'll give you 3 minutes if you can. Just address the issues before and let's get into this. We don't have so much time.
It is important to clarify certain things. Sometimes when you hear people, and I have heard my brother Divine Ekpe talking about certain issues regarding teacher rationalization, among other things, comparing how much goes into the salary, that, and also calling the teacher training allowance wastage and all. I think those comments are unfortunate. They are unfortunate.
How so?
Please let me come. You see, when you are doing an analysis, you must place it within specific context. Context number one, since 2009, it is in our collective agreement that teachers who are set posting to the rural areas or underserved areas or difficult areas, they will be paid 20% of the allowance. About 12 years, 13 years down the line, that money has not been paid. You go to those areas, you see only about one teacher manning the whole class, manning the whole school. Look, I started teaching in 1989. I started teaching in 1989 before I went to the college. I am heading towards my 60 years. So when we are discussing issues of education, we bring to bear the kind of things that we have, not only have we handled, but the things we have gone through. And we don't think that such things should happen. When you go to the rural areas, one person manning the school, and it was the government's responsibility that teachers who are set postings to those areas should be given 20% of their gross pay. 13 years down the line, after signing an agreement, it has not been done. And then we come back here again, 13 years down the line, they should be rationalized. You post teachers to that particular place. What they are entitled to, you will not pay. What do you expect? That is number one. Number two, we are talking about the issue of, yes, I think I've spoken to the issue of the allowance and the teacher rationalization. Now let me comment about the issue of the development aspect, education and development. My brother, I want to show you a document here. I hope you can see the document I am holding. I am showing a document here.
We can see it.
The Coordinated Program of Economic and Social Development Policies 2021 to 2025. Good. Now, I have taken my time to read all these coordinated programs since we came into the Fourth Republic, since 1992. Normally, when the government, we are talking about linking education to development. Normally, when the government comes into power, the government has gone to campaign already on certain policies or certain promises to the people. And by so doing in Ghana, we have come to accept it as a social contract. And so when the party that wins the election, your manifesto is sent to the National Development Planning Commission. And I think it is important for us to understand how we do development in our development trajectory in Ghana. That manifesto goes to the National Development Planning Commission. And when when it goes there, they put it on they put it in a particular book like this. And then that becomes the government of the day, the roadmap, or the roadmap for the development. And it is out of this document that we develop our annual budget to get it done. Some people call it activity-based or whatever name you want to call it, you can call it. And so once we are doing our development in such a way that the government of the day will come with its own programs and all that, we will certainly have programs. Sorry, we will certainly have problems. Look, I have taken my time to read a book called From Third World to First World by Lim Kuan Yew. If you look at that particular book carefully, Lim Kuan Yew made a very sad commentary about Ghana, particularly when he met our former foreign minister, foreign minister, and he asked him, how is Ghana doing? And our former minister said Ghana is in a mess. And according to the book, From Third World to First World, which I will recommend for everybody to go and read and understand why we are here today. So the question is this: so long as we are going by the piecemeal approach, and I think my brother Larry enumerated them, project that has been abandoned and all those things are in this particular book. And what government must do. By the end of the day, we write one thing in a book, but we do a different thing altogether.
All right, point made, Mr. Musa, on those ones. Can we get down to the specifics of the 60% demand from labor? You could wrap up on that.
You see, I think next time you need to give us time to speak to some of, because it's very, very important when we are at least doing analysis on why we are here.
Unfortunately, Mr. Musa, we don't have all the time. You will be allowed to do some, analysis, but you can't do all of it here.
Okay,
that's
but
the
let
issue.
me mention these things. They are very, look, when I was the head teacher in the late 90s up to the early 2000s, we were doing what we call the school performance appraisal meeting. We were doing what we call the PTA and all that. And I'll be happy to come to the studio to explain how we can use this particular governance system to raise money to run education in Ghana successfully. Now let me come to the issue of the base pay. Please, the base pay, we started from 65%, and we are currently at 58%. And it is important that I take my time to explain. I want to believe that once you have asked this, we need to give me time to explain. You see, in the year 2010, when we started this whole of base pay, we started this single spine pay policy. In the year 2011, salaries were increased by 20%. In the year 2012, salaries went up by reduced by 18%. In the year 2013, salary was reduced to about 10%. Then in the year 2014, we were giving Sakura. There was no increase on the base pay, but rather we were giving a COLA of 10%. Then in the year 2015, we were giving 3% in addition to the COLA 10% that we were giving, consolidating it to become 13%. Since that particular time, organized labor, and for that particular matter, the Ghanaian worker has been suffering, and our salaries have been depreciating. Look, in the year 2015, we met. I remember quite clearly, there was a meeting where our government's attention was drawn to this. That when we started with the base pay, the base pay was ahead of the minimum wage of 10%. But as of today, we have lost all those kind of gains. And so in 2015, government attention was drawn that all attempts should be done to close that particular gap. And not only that, but the relativity ratio of the 1.7%, which was a promise that it will get to 3%, must be made to get to that particular point.
All right, Mr. Musa, the point is made. I just wanted to find out, so if this isn't done, is it going to lead to any strikes this year?
We are currently at 58%. That is where we are.
You still not answered my question. If you don't get what you're looking for, will there be industrial actions?
Well, when we get to the bridge, we will cross it. But I don't think that it will be in government interest to delay the process, because this thing should have been concluded as far back as April 2022, and it has not been done.
If the delay continues, if the delay continues, what will you do?
It will not be in the interest of anybody, because organized labor will certainly take a decision.
And that decision will be what? Will you strike?
And that, by when we get to the bridge, we will cross it.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Divine, you have make it very quick reaction. I was going to come to you for your summary. So I don't know whether you want to wait for me to come to you and then you bring in your reaction, or you want to react now because it will be out of your time. Okay. All right. Dr. Anti, we have to limit the time, unfortunately. We have just about 7 minutes left. So, ladies and gentlemen, no lady here. Gentlemen, please bear with me. Dr. Anti, in a minute and a half, 2 minutes, your summary comments, your wrap-up comments. Peter Anti, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
When you see an organized society, it's not by chance. An organized society is normally built through the educational system because the educational system is well structured. And by developing a very potent curriculum, the citizenry is taken through that particular curriculum to reflect the aspirations and the values of that particular society. And that is how development is achieved in most of our societies. In Ghana, we do not see much of that. We don't see much of that because anytime we have very good documents, the implementation of these documents become problematic, and I'm referring to our various curriculum. You talk to the teacher unions, they will tell you that even the implementation of the standard-based curriculum has faced tremendous challenges, so as with the Common Core program. We wish that this year we do a reassessment and re-strategize the education front in terms of the various policies that we have implemented. So you look at all the reforms that we are doing, we feel that this year the ministry should take a pause, go back to 2017, 2018, look at all the things that they introduced, and then take stock for each one of them and see which ones are working and which ones are not working, and put in plans to ensure that the best is obtained from the policies that we have implemented. That will help us and give us a way forward as to how we proceed as a country.
All right. Thank you for going straight to the point, Dr. Peter Anti. Just hold as we wrap the conversation. Dennis Labi, if you're there, your quick summary comments.
I'm here.
Right. Please go ahead.
It's difficult to wrap up in 2 minutes, but I'll do that.
Please try.
First of all is the issue of the school fees. Last Friday, we met the Minister for Education and the Director for Tertiary Education, Dr. Yaya, and we've resolved to hold on with all sorts of actions that we had planned, with the conviction that they would come through with their promise of ensuring that these illegal fees are not charged. We want to appreciate the Minister and the Director for Tertiary Education and GTEC, Dr. Jenapo and Professor Salifu, for the collective open door effort they've employed in managing these issues, because illegalities are illegalities. They must not be allowed to filter in any way. But the only reason why we are a bit worried at this point, but still hopeful, is that yesterday the University of Ghana issued a statement attempting to explain and justify the illegalities.
Right, we've seen that statement. What's your problem with the statement?
And the statement, I'm not sure I'm the one to even state the problem with the statement. It is laughable in its context. Now, one, a university tells us that in 2019, they were supposed to increase fees. They failed to increase fees at that time. So they've carried forward the fees increment to now. Very soon, we'll hear some universities tell us that in 1972, they were supposed to increase fees. They did not. So
I don't think the context is that they failed to increase it. They say they were supposed to do it, but owing to certain circumstances, COVID-19 came in. Then there was the bit about last year and the economic situation, and they did not. It's not that they failed to.
That's what I'm saying, that another institution will tell us that they did not in 1972. But that notwithstanding, the law says that the fees adjustments shall be made on the 2021-2022 fees charged. The law is very straightforward. You can't circumvent the law by bringing in such justifications. The minister has said that if you have a problem and you have issues or justifications, go back to Parliament to vary the law there. It is the Parliament of Ghana that sets the law. University of Ghana has no right to set laws. And that is why they must comply stricto sensu with the provisions of Parliament.
Right.
But I will leave that to the minister whilst he meets them on Thursday, and with our hope that he would ensure that the right thing is done. But to use the last 30 seconds to summarize on funding of education, let me say this, that the funding education issue is the greatest barrier to accessing tertiary education. That is why we have said that this year, government should be willing, committed to uncap GET fund. Government should be willing aside finding innovative ways of funding student loan trust fund, provide funding, because the innovative ways are quite long-term plans or medium-term plans. But in the short mid-term plan, let me say this on your set, that we have arrears of about 40,000 students unpaid as student loan trust fund. 40,000 students.
Right.
First semester arrears last year. Second semester that has ended, Dr.
It appears we've had a problem with his feed. Larry, you've been following the conversation. Less than 2 minutes. What's your final take?
Thank you very much, Ben. I think for me, the year looks great. 2022 looks great, but it's going to be a very tough year for us, taking into consideration that next year, 2024, we are going into our major elections, parliamentary and presidential elections. So this year obviously looks like the only active year left, because the politicians will be running around next year. Some few things that I am looking forward to this year in the education sector. One, I think my senior officer, my big brother mentioned it already, Mr. Musa, negotiations on the best pay. In fact, that is a very critical issue that needs to be handled within the shortest possible time. If not, we don't know what is going to happen to payment of salary to teachers going forward from next month. Another key thing I'm looking forward to is that the National Teaching Council is introducing computer-based tests to replace the existing manual way of writing the Ghana Teacher License Examination, which is going to take effect, I think, somewhere February, March of this year. Also, the National Teaching Council is also leading the charge to introduce entrance exams for prospective students who want to gain admission into teacher education institutions. I think there's still some kind of stakeholder engagement ongoing, and I pray that is done and completed successfully for us to see the light on that being implemented.
Okay.
And then I think the Honorable Minister for Education, in his presentation on the Joy Change Speaker Series on Saturday, also spoke about this National Education Leadership Institute. We hope that also comes in to address the gap when it comes to leadership issues for our managers of educational institutions. But one critical thing that
this will be your final bit, looking at the time. This will be your final bit.
The whole of 2022, there was no recruitment of teachers but that couldn't happen. Now we are getting into this whole IMF stuff that we don't know the future of recruitment of teachers into schools. Whichever way government can adopt to recruit teachers into our schools.
Right.
Please, it's an appeal to the Honorable Minister.
Okay. Point made.
There's a lot of graduate teachers in the system who need to be posted to
Point made, Larry. Point made. Thank you very much. Divine, your colleagues have used 2 minutes, 30 seconds or less. You can summarize your thoughts. Your turn.
All right. Thank you, Ben. First one is to Mr. Musa, and when I was commenting on the allowance issue, it wasn't about allowance meant for teachers in deprived areas or being posted into deprived areas of the country. No, I was specific about teacher trainings allowance. That's just what I want to clarify on what he submitted. Now, quickly, we want to again remind government of the negative implication that the 2023 education budget could have if we do not do things differently this year. One, because of the sharp decline in expenditure, we are likely to see that infrastructure gap would widen. We're also likely to see that once that happens, there's a decline in infrastructure. Access will also be a challenge, especially at the basic education level. Because 9,000 teachers more could not be recruited or would not be recruited this year, tells that some classrooms will be lacking teachers. So government, what we implore government to do is to do things different. The little that government has put in should be able to manage that. And then also we should begin to look at how we invite parents' participation. Because from the onlook of things, you have realized that parents are willing to be part of the education financing. And we have seen it that even last year, some parents were still paying PTA at the basic education level, although it was not, right. So some parents were still doing that. It tells you that some parents are still willing to make some contribution to that. It is giving us an opportunity to formalize that. Maybe we need to begin to have a conversation to ensure that we formalize that so that parents willing to make contribution towards education, and also at the SHS level, parents that are willing to be able to make contribution towards it. Because looking at it, spending 70% of the goods and service budget line to free SHS just on feeding, that alone is not even sustainable, although government is doing it.
So you disagree with the NUC's president on that point, that basically those who feel they can pay, we should allow them to do so?
Yeah, we should invite the parents to be part of it. Because like I said, it's not that government is doing it, or the question is at what is the opportunity cost? At what cost is government financing a free senior high school? It is at the cost of basic senior high school, basic education. If you look at it, any time the budget line for SHS increases, that of the basic education decreases. So it tells you this inverse relation. So that gives an idea that the opportunity calls for running free SHS is basic education. So we need to get to a point where you need not to sacrifice basic education to be able to sustain your free SHS program. So parents are willing to be part of the financing model, and not only the financing, the governance architecture as a whole. So let's see how best we invite them into the space this year, and given the challenge with the economic challenge we are in, once we are able to have parents also cushioning some of the costs, I'm sure we're able to address the issues that we have at hand.
So we've been joined on this conversation today focusing on education at a point we had Dr. Ahmed Jinapor, Deputy Director, Ghana Tertiary Education Commission. But our main guests on the show, Thomas Musa, General Secretary of NAT. We also had Dennis Labi, President, National Union of Ghana Students. We had Dr. Larry Agbado, Editor, Teacher Education Journal, joined the conversation. Divine Kpe just spoke. He is Senior Programs Officer with Africa Education Watch. We also had from the Institute for Education Studies, Dr. Peter Patianti, Executive Director for that outfit, as well as Larry Agbado, Editor, Colleges of Education Journal. To all of you gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Divine, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Brain.
Well, now we move on to the next conversation right after the break. It is my colleague, Kweku Asante, who is our parliamentary correspondent. He'll be interacting with the ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee, Peter Nochu Koto, also on education. That right after the break.
Thank you very much for joining us in this series of interviews with members of parliament. Today we are catching up with the member of parliament for Akachi North. That is the person of Honorable Nochu Koto, Honorable Peter Nochu Koto. The education sector this year has witnessed some turbulence. For the first time in a long time, almost all the various categories of schools were on strike. Basic school teachers were on strike at some point. University lecturers were on strike. Colleges of education teachers were on strike. University teachers were also on strike. There are other issues having to do with national service and whether or not the allowance must be increased or not. It currently is at 559 Ghana cedis. In these current economic challenges, there are those who have said that we need to raise that, and the Honorable MP has made a statement on the floor to that effect. And so we'll be getting some more on that. And then finally, there are matters having to do with Get Fund and how they are struggling to get by. He and some other colleagues of his are trying to uncap Get Fund monies that the ministry is using for other purposes. And so they have a bill currently going through the states in Parliament. So we'll be getting some knowledge on all those issues. Honorable, thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Honorable, like I said, this year has been one of the tough times for the education sector, where almost all categories of schools, teachers were on strike. Indeed, UTAG just put out a statement only yesterday saying that they were going to return to the classroom. But they had been on strike for 7 weeks getting to 8 weeks. Some schools have had their calendar completely thrown out of gear. What have you made of, I mean, in particular 2022, of the education sector?
Thank you very much. As you rightly said, education in the country has gone through a lot of turbulence this year. For the first time in the history of this country, teachers at all levels, that is from kindergarten to the university, have all been on strike at the same time. This has never happened. And it is not good for the development of education in this country. This is because those who are responsible for managing education in this country are taking things for granted. If teachers go on strike just for the fact that they don't want the head of the service, I don't think you need to allow them to go on strike to resolve the matter. This is a matter they could have resolved behind doors. No need for it. But they waited until the teachers went on strike, and then they had to resort to ad hoc measures like going to court to put an injunction on them and all those things before they went back to the classroom. It's uncalled for.
It's uncalled for. Now, lecturers are coming back now. They went on strike at some point. There were a very lengthy strike that they embarked on.
Hold on. Let's close the door from the noise is coming. No, just move the stone.
Okay. So at some point, university lecturers were on strike. Like I said, they've just announced that they are getting back to the classroom, had to do with their fuel allowances. What do you think government can do generally in terms of industrial harmony to ensure that this does not recur, where almost all levels there's a strike?
You know, at the beginning of this year, they took the Committee on Education and some other concerned stakeholders to talk to lecturers at the university, that is UTAG, to go back to the classroom, because we saw that it was going to disrupt the academic year. So they agreed and went back to the lecture room. But the unfortunate thing that happened was that government failed to honor their obligations. Do you see? So if we come to a meeting on agreement that this is the roadmap, let us all follow the roadmap, and you fail, and your employees go by that roadmap, by all means they will go back on strike again. So that's why I was saying that those who are managing education in the country are the people creating the problem. If we agree that, okay, this is going to be the fuel allowance, this is going to be the book allowance, this is going to be the base pay, go and work towards that and pay them. So once you do that, I think you don't have any problem. But if you go and sleep as a government and you don't care, once they have gone back to the lecture rooms, let's relax, to backfire. And that's what we have seen. So those who are responsible, I think the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Finance should collaborate and make sure that what is due to the lecturers and teachers, they do it in time. And then that will be okay.
Right. As we speak, government is negotiating base pay with labor. Labor have said they are not going below any point below 60%. There are those who have said government simply cannot afford that. Do you think that labor is being fair, including teachers who are asking for 60% base pay in these times of economic uncertainties?
Yeah, government is the employer. And if the employee is asking for 60%, and as a government you feel you cannot pay, call them and explain the situation to them. Because we are all going through economic hardships now, and everybody goes to the same market. So if my pay is no good, I must demand for higher pay. So in any case, I agree that workers should demand for higher pay. I cannot run away from it. Do you see? So I support the workers to demand.
But can government afford that in these times?
That's what I'm saying, that as an employer, call your employees and say, oh, yes, it is good. You have demanded this. But because I have a challenge, I cannot do A, B, C, D. Okay. Do you see? That's what government should do, and offer them something tangible that can appease them.
But even as government goes through all this, your side in parliament is frustrating government's revenue-raising abilities. Government wants 2.5% VAT. They want to review e-levy from 1.5% to 1%, but remove the daily threshold. Your side say they will not approve that.
No, but all sums of money that we have approved for them so far, what have they done with them, with that money?
They said they've built roads, they've done schools.
Which roads? The roads in my constituency are there. I've not seen any improvement in roads network in my constituency. They've just come to remove the bitumen and all those things, and the people are suffering. So I have not seen anything they have done with the money we have given them. In any case, we had other sources of income. You say you were introducing e-levy, and we told you it was not going to work, and you said it will work. So you stopped road tolls.
Road tolls.
Do you say? So who is to blame? Are you to blame the minority or you blame yourself? So I think government is not putting priorities first, and they should just forget about fanciful projects.
So you talk about priorities and fanciful projects. Are you putting the National Cathedral as one of those?
Yeah, it's a fanciful project. Do we need it? Do we need it at this time of our economic crisis? So that you can put 80 million Ghana cedis in the budget, whilst you cannot pay for food items supplied to senior high schools. I have the records here. I can give it to you how much they are owing the schools. Do you see? So if students are hungry and you say you want to put up a cathedral, do you think God will be happy with you? When the people are hungry, you want to put up a cathedral. What is the sense in it? So I feel strongly that we have misplaced priorities by this government.
Misplaced priorities. So we're in a conversation with the MP for Akatsi North, Honorable Peter Nochuko-Toy, on a number of happenings in the education sector. I told you that he made a statement on the floor regarding National Service Allowance, 559 Ghana cedis for NSPs. Is that enough in these current times? I'll come to that. But there are some very key issues that he has been raising over the course of this entire sitting of Parliament, having to do with Get Fund and their struggles. He and some colleagues introduced a bill to deal with the capping of Get Fund money. I want to know where that is currently. Honorable, where is that bill, that private members bill you are sponsoring? Where is it?
Yeah, before you even come to the bill, you know, Get Fund was established in 2000 with a 2.5% VAT revenue. That was to be used to fund education in this country, especially infrastructure and scholarship, as well as other things related to the development of education in the country. And that has been the trend till this government came to power. Then in 2017, they decided to cap the proceeds to Get Fund, which was against the law. Now, a few years ago, they removed Get Fund from VAT and made it a straight line tax of 2.5, the same. Now, this year, the Get Fund should have received about 3.4 billion Ghana cedis in revenue. But what they have given them is just about 1.4 billion. So look at that difference. Now, if you calculate it over the years since 2017, if monies meant for Get Fund were given to them, what will happen is that they will not need to go to Dachi Bond to go and borrow any money from there. They could have done everything that they wanted to do as a fund. So when I sat down, or we sat down, we look at what revenue Get Fund had lost as a result of capping. It's well over 4 billion. And 4 billion to Get Fund would have solved a lot of problems. Now, Get Fund is in charge of scholarships, it's in charge of infrastructure, it's in charge of even buying vehicles for senior high schools and universities in the country, it's in charge of printing of textbooks, a lot of things, even student allowances in the colleges of education. So if you are capping it, what do you think you are going to do? So next year, if you look at the 2023 budget, Get Fund would have received 4.6 billion in revenue or resources for Get Fund. But the minister has reduced it to 1.8 billion, which is less than 40%. And how do you want Get Fund to survive? Meanwhile, they cannot go into the bond market again because Dachi will not be able to raise any money
Because of these haircuts.
Haircuts, yes. So no bank will be ready to give money to Get Fund again. Because even the investment they have made in Get Fund now, or the Dachi bond, they don't know when they will even get it. Because by next year, 2023, it's 0% interest. You see, 0% interest. So I don't know what they're going to do. So myself and the chairman of the Education Committee, Honorable Siama, we decided that no, we must save Get Fund. So we discussed with our leadership, and they asked me to take the lead in that direction. So we made it a motion, and then in March or so this year, the House adopted the motion that we should decap Get Fund. So the next step will be to put in a private member's bill. Yeah, we worked on that, and then the Speaker accepted it. That is a good move. So we laid it 2 weeks ago. It has now been referred to the Finance Committee, and then with the leadership of the Education Committee to deliberate on it and then report back to the House. I think because of the estimates and all this here, we are not able to sit on it yet. But I am very sure that very soon we will sit on it and then bring the report to plenary for a decision. So we want to amend the Capping and Realignment Act that was passed by Parliament in 2017, and then take Get Fund out of it. So if we take Get Fund out of institutions that are capped, I can assure you that Get Fund will get a lot of money and can do more than they are doing now. As we're talking now, they owe contractors over 200 million Ghana cedis. 200 million Ghana cedis contractors. And Ministry of Finance is withholding 800 million Ghana cedis that is due to Get Fund between last year and this year. So if that money is given to Get Fund now, you will see that they can pay all contractors before Christmas. So let me just use this opportunity to appeal to the Minister of Finance that he's unduly punishing Get Fund. He's retarding progress of education in the country. So you should release whatever is due to Get Fund to them so that they can pay contractors. I can also tell you that those who printed the textbooks that were distributed recently, they have not been paid anything. The publishers and the printers, they have not been paid. And they are crying. Some of them said they had gone to borrow money at banks in dollar value. At the time they borrowed the money, it was just about 8 cedis or so to the dollar. Now look at what it is, 13, 14. And they must pay back at that rate. So they are losing in business. Money. Yes. So they are not going to make any profit on their investment. So if Ministry of Finance is refusing to pay Get Fund, it cannot also pay the contractors and then those who printed materials or textbooks for the various. So if government is happy, oh, we have supplied textbooks to the schools, it is to the detriment of somebody's business. That is the situation.
Have you spoken with the education minister as a committee or individually to try and see if you can get his support on this? Is he supporting this move to uncap Get Fund?
I don't know his position, and I don't think we will take the matter to him because he has little or no role to play in it. Yes, he will be happy that Get Fund gets a lot of money. Yes, but as an individual, I don't think he can, unless he comes to the House and when it is voting time on it, whether he will object to it or he will support it. So as an individual, we will not go to him to lobby that, oh, he must support the bill. He can do so on his own, but we believe strongly that both sides of the House are in favor of the motion that, or the bill that we have laid.
Honorable, I think last month you made a statement on national service personnel and the allowance.
Yeah.
Yes, 559 is meager. That's what some people have said. It's not enough. Sometimes it's in arrears for 3 months before it is paid. It goes back to the question of what government can afford. These are trying times. Your government increased the NSS allowance from just a little over 300 cedis to 559. There are those who say that you did so for political reasons, because in 2016 you were just about exiting. So it was as though you sought to punish the incoming government then. Now you are back again and you are saying that the national service allowance should be increased.
You see, it was not done intentionally to punish any government. Who knew at that time that NPP would be coming to government? Do you see it? Because NDC was also preparing to continue in government. And we realized at the point when we were reading the budget or present the budget that no, what we are paying the national service personnel was small, looking at the increasing cost of living. So if we increase it from 330 or so to 559, it was good. We felt that they must also be made to live just as any ordinary worker at the time. You see, so that was why we increased the allowance. And for 6 years now, they have been living on that allowance. And if you have a son or daughter who is on national service far away from you, and he's being paid 559 Ghana cedis a month, will you enjoy it? Will you be happy? Now, those on NAPCO, they are paying them 700. So if you are paying somebody NAPCO 700 and they are all graduates, is it because he has got the tag national service so he should be punished? No. So I feel strongly that what is good for the goose is good for the gander. And you cannot punish anybody because he's doing national service. National service is not meant to punish anybody. They are delivering service. And they must be adequately rewarded as they are working. Because if you go to some of the rural areas and you see national service personnel, you thank them, you appreciate what they are doing. Some, they go, there's no electricity, there's no water, but they manage and live with the people. So the road even to the community where they serve is very bad, but they are able to live within the community. So we must show appreciation for whatever they do. So you don't allow or you don't expect parents to be supporting them financially again after they had paid their fees at the university for 4 years. Then when they are doing national service, you
parents are still
supporting them. No. Meanwhile, they have other siblings in the house that must be taken care of.
How much do you think will be reasonable in these times?
I think the minimum of 1,000 Ghana cedis per service personnel will be okay.
Sometimes we have up to 100,000 national service personnel. Government would say they cannot afford that.
You see, when you say government cannot afford, I don't agree with you. Because there is a lot of waste in the system.
So you think it's about priority?
Yes, if you cut down on the waste, we can take care of them. 115,000 service personnel were posted in September. And then the nurses are also going to be posted this week or so. So I am of the view that a minimum of 1,000 cedis for them is okay. Because now look at the cost of transportation to and fro from wherever they are working. And it is not easy. So they must be compensated so that they can go and work where the environment where they serve at times, you can have to take that into consideration.
That would be 120 million Ghana cedis every month.
So it's 1.2 billion.
1.2 billion.
Government can afford it.
Every year.
Yeah, government can afford it.
Because there are those who have said that government wage bill is already bloated.
Yes, because I even doubt if government will even get it to the 1,000 because the allocation to
private agencies.
They
pay on their own.
They pay on their own, and upon that they pay even to national service 20%.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for staying. Hopefully you enjoyed that conversation with my colleague Kweku Asante and the ranking member of the Education Committee of Parliament. But as we conclude the AM show this morning, it's all about the Liberation Circle, Dankwa Circle to be specific, and other principal streets of Accra, which have become the ultimate photo studio for families as they pose by lights used to beautify the city for the festive season. Maxwell Agbagba, my colleague, has been speaking to some of them who want these decorations to be replicated in other parts of the country. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how we'll be concluding the AM show for another morning. Let's catch up same time tomorrow. Enjoy.
Hashtag Light Up the City has become a significant part of the Christmas celebrations here in Ghana. Many families, loved ones, church mates, work colleagues all troop here at night to take beautiful pictures and capture the moments. This beautiful 2023 sign welcomes patrons here to the Liberation Circle. The principal streets and many other major landmarks here in the capital are not left out of these beautiful decorations.
There's bumper-to-bumper traffic on Osu Oxford Street. Many people are gathered at the Dankwat Circle taking their first 2023 pictures. Here, I've met the Ejakuns. Edward Ejakun is behind the camera as his wife, Comfort, and two children, Edna and Edward, pose for a picture in what looks like a pumpkin designed with lights. He says his children love the lights.
When the kids saw this place, they were fascinated about the colors, about the lightning. So they wanted to take a few pictures. So we decided to stop by park for them to take a picture. And you can see they are happy about the pictures we are taking. Yeah. It's been nice seeing them all over, and we encourage the city to do more. Actually, we used to be in Kumasi actually, and we didn't see much of this. And the ones in Accra are really beautiful. So we would love for them to replicate it, everywhere.
Edna, how are you?
I'm fine.
Oh, tell me, do you like it here? Do you like the lights here?
Yes, please.
Eddie Ejakun's son, Edward, says he loves the light and will want to come back with his friends. His mother, Comfort, wants other regions to also feel the joy the lights evoke in the people of Accra.
The lights and everything.
And everything.
Just like my husband said earlier, we wish they could replicate this in the other regions and probably do more, okay, as the years go by. It shouldn't be only Christmas that we see these things around, especially with the children.
Yeah.
They always love to be in places like this. So if they could put up things like this once in a while before Christmas, I'm sure the kids will enjoy it.
True.
And we, the parents, to appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is not just families using the Dankwa Circle and the Liberation Circle as a photo studio, but lovers too. Here I've met Dami and her boyfriend Henry Osei taking selfies by one of the lights. He says the decorations with the light bring out the festive season and wants it replicated in other regions.
You like it?
Yeah, it's actually beautiful, like the lightning, the colors. It brings that festive spirit, the Christmas spirit, It makes you feel like, this is like the heart. Yeah, this is the heart. Osu is actually the heart of entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I work here, I'm a DJ also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Osu is actually the heart of entertainment. So having this here, it brings like more life and light to the city, making it a great place to be any day, any time. Yeah, I think as we are all Ghanaians and we are all sharing from the same cake, like every region needs to experience this.
It's not exactly. The children, they need to experience this. It really makes them happy,
I'm now at the Liberation Circle. Here I've met another patron. It is 2:35 a.m. on the 1st January. She stopped here with other family members to take some pictures as the year begins.
Frida.
Okay, Frida, what's your last name?
Quay Green.
Quay Green. Okay, great. Tell us, you're having a good time here, right?
Yes.
Yes. Over here?
Yes. We came here last year, so every year we come.
Oh, every year you come here? Wow. It means 2023 you're going to come here?
Yes.
2024 you come here?
Yes.
Tell me, what do you like about this place?
The lights. She likes the lights.
Oh, okay.
So we like the lights. And the fact that you can walk through.
Yeah.
Yes, you can walk through and take pictures, and it's safe.
Okay.
You have a couple of security guys around, so it's safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh.
Her sister, Dr. Rebecca Quigrin, says hashtag light up the city should be a national exercise.
Very good. It's beautiful. Yeah. Taking the pictures here is very good because you can even intentionally the circle thing. I think it wouldn't be bad because it will give them the opportunity to also enjoy what we have in Accra. Yes, so it would be very good if it's done there.
Her daughter, Ashley, is having the time of her life here at the Liberation Circle.
Come enjoy your life. Life is too short.
Oh, you have that from Ashley. Alberta Jamfi and her children and then her family, here taking pictures here at the Liberation Circle, another location of Light Up the City. Hello. Oh, should I start with Martin? Yes. Martin, how are you?
Fine.
You're fine. You like it here?
Yes.
You love it?
Yes.
Oh, you want to come here again?
Yes.
We love here. Every ending of the year or 1st January, we come here to take pictures.
Oh, okay.
Yes. The design. Yeah. So we take pictures from here. We go everywhere to take pictures. I'm talking about not just this place.
Wow.
Yes. Everywhere that there is a design like this, we just go there to take pictures. So that we will all enjoy this. It shouldn't be only Accra.
Yeah.
Principal streets like the Bema Camp, the Dansuman Roundabout, the Action Chapel Roundabout, the median from the Silver Star Towers to Airport Traffic Light, the Accra Mall Roundabout, the Akwaje Roundabout, and many other principal streets of Accra all have been decorated with the lights. CEO of Jandel Limited, Afia Moro, is the brain behind the decorations, which was made possible by her other partners and corporate organizations. She said during the launch of hashtag Light Up the City, they always want to make the festive season a memorable one.
It is time to lift up spirits and focus on what matters the most. That is, loving our families and friends and giving to others who have none. Mother Teresa of blessed memory once said that it is not how much we give, but how much love we put into giving. This season is about showing love, caring for each other, and being there for one another.
Charlotte. It's very beautiful. In fact, I'm here to snap.
Oh, okay.
I'm here to take pictures. It seems you always do this in only Accra.
Okay.
If I think the Liberation Circle, 37 here, airport, but I've not seen any of such in Kumasi or elsewhere. Yes, like even the capital towns, it will be okay. Kumasi, Ho, and then Tamale and elsewhere, it will be okay.